And the Subway Series continues in New York. A Yankees win would help the Expos. A Mets win would be nice for Delgado, Stewart, and the rest of the Blue Jays as they take on Guerrero, White, and Vidro. Next. Welcome to Baseball Tonight. I'm Dave Hodge along with Pat Tambler as we get set for Game 2 of this Interleague Series between the Blue Jays and the Expos, which finds both teams in pretty good shape, Pat. The Expos actually have a better record than the Jays. They're closer to a playoff spot, while the Jays are closer to first place in their division. So forgetting some attendance problems, some ownership questions, things looking pretty good in the field. Yeah, they sure are with the Montreal Expos, especially although they're just 6 games out behind the Atlanta Braves. They're only a game and a half behind the New York Mets for the wild card, and I think that's more realistic to think of. Also, now the Toronto Blue Jays just 3 games behind the New York Yankees in that division in the AL East. But on top of being great team stats and having some great success as a team, some individual players are doing great for both teams, Montreal and for the Toronto Blue Jays, MVP seasons. And right now, I think you've got to think about Vladimir Guerrero and Carlos Delgado as MVPs in both leagues. Well, part of the fun of watching this series is to watch these two guys try to outslug each other. Last night, the Jays did most of the slugging. Their biggest victory of the season in terms of run difference is to beat the Expos by 10. For more on what happened last night, Dan Schulman and Buck Martinez.
David, times the Blue Jays have come home from a road trip, whether it's been a good one or a bad one, and kind of been a little bit flat in their first game back here at Skydome. But last night definitely wasn't one of those cases.
Dan, it's been a hard club to figure out in that regard. They'd come home off a pretty good road trip, and then they'd be flat. But last night against Montreal, they were ready, and they came out swinging. Shannon Stewart, the leadoff guy, got everything going. He hit 3 doubles in the ball game, and Cito Gaston has said all year long, nobody hits the ball more consistently than Shannon Stewart. His home run into the bullpen was the kind of the capper to a big night. 3 doubles, a home run, and he really set the tone for the Blue Jays to take on the Expos in the opener.
Jim Fregosi feels that Stewart's the best leadoff man in the American League, and hard to argue the way he's been swinging the bat lately. Carlos Delgado, ho-hum, a double and a home run. He's now got 23 to lead the American League. Lee Stevens and Chris Widger with home runs for the Expos, but the pitching for Montreal wasn't very good. They've had a lot of injuries this year. They've called up some guys from the minors who have had some trouble, and the Blue Jays cashed in every single run last night with 2 outs.
Yeah, that's a big turnaround for this ball club, and all of a sudden you're starting to see better at-bats, a little more patient approach, and they're going the other way. Even Shannon Stewart's home run was to right field. They're becoming a real good 2-strike and 2-out ball club.
All Venezuelan a matchup here this afternoon between Tony Armas Jr. and Kelvim Escobar as the Expos try to even up the series. Back to you.
Carlos Delgado hitting his 23rd home run of the season last night. He's zoomed into the lead in the American League. He wishes the Jays could make up the kind of ground he has. That's right. 2 weeks ago, I was in Detroit, and I happened to be talking to Carlos Delgado, and he said, hey, this is our chance to really gain some ground. Well, in that last 2 weeks, the Blue Jays have only gone 7-6, when Boston's gone 6-8, and the New York Yankees have gone 6-7. So they picked up a game and a half on those two, but obviously this is a missed opportunity where they could be going up there and picking up some games on these guys. Strangely enough, they're closer to first place in their division than they are to the wild card spot. You've had this idea that if they can catch one of the Yankees or Boston, they'd probably make the playoffs. Now that might not be good enough. That's right. It might not be because of the format and the way things are right now. I think what they have to do is they got to get hot. I think Boston's really scuffling right now, as is the New York Yankees. I think if they can get hot and stay close, I think they really have a chance at winning the division. The Montreal Expos would like to think that they've got a playoff shot too, perhaps more realistic to think about wild card possibilities, and they can think about their players figuring prominently in all-star selections. Our trivia question today shall involve the Expos and the All-Star game. We want to know in what year did the Expos have 4 All-Star starters, and of course we want to know who they were. We'll have that and a lot more coming up on Baseball Tonight. Junior trying to win for the 2nd time in the big leagues. His first win was mighty impressive. He shut out the Baltimore Orioles. Trivia question is, what year did the Expos have 4 All-Star starters? And see if you can name them. The year was, that year of 1982. Wasn't that played in Olympic Stadium? Also Montreal. A little deke there with Steve Rogers. He wasn't one of the starting 9. He was the starting pitcher, so we might have decoyed you a little bit, but Gary Carter, Dawson, Raines, and Rogers. The Expos will be represented this year at the All-Star game, well, you know for certain, by Vladimir Guerrero. Jose Vidro may not get the votes from the fans, but perhaps a smart manager will have him there because he's been great at second base all season for the Expos. Let's hear from Buck Martinez and Jose Vidro.
Jose, everybody's a little bit surprised by the year you're having, but when you look back to last year, you hit about 360 right up till the end of the season. Tell me about your goals as a hitter and what you try to accomplish when you step into the box.
Well, first of all, I try to, look at the pitcher, the way he's throwing out there against lefties. Obviously, he's not going to pitch the same way as, to everybody, but I try to study them, the counts, pitch, how they're pitching during the count, and consistency as I go as a hitter. I try to be consistent I can. Try to stay within my goals. Don't go try to hit home runs when I'm not a home run hitter. Try to hit my doubles, my line drive. Once in a while, get my home runs too.
You've got a balanced attack. Of course, Vladdy's having a great year, and the addition of Lee Stevens gives you some protection. How does that help you as a hitter to have that many good hitters around you?
Well, one thing I know, they're going to pitch to me, because then if they walk me, they're going to get in trouble trying to because behind me it's Rondell, Vladimir, and Steven, which are swinging the bat real good. We run in scoring positions, and I think for me, hitting in front of them, I gotta give them RBIs opportunities, which I think I'm doing this year very good.
One of the key improvements in your game has been defense. What did you try to accomplish in the offseason to prepare defensively?
Well, I went and worked hard in winter ball. I mean, I didn't start how good year in the big league last year, and I said, it's time to get better. And I went to play hard in winter ball, and that's the thing that I worked most of it in Puerto Rico, my defense. And I came to spring training, and I have a real good instructor on Perry Hill, who's working me a lot, teaching me a lot, and I've been thankful for that.
Jose, you guys are right in the middle of the pack in the NL East. What are the goals for you guys? What do you hope to accomplish this year?
Well, first of all, we hope to get our guys back. We got a lot of injuries on the key guys. Urbina, Klein stepped up for him very good, but I think if we got Urbina back and Klein set him up the table for him, it's going to be big for us because, when we go deep into a game with our bullpen, it has been shaken, So I hope we get Urbina back and Klein will go back to set up guy and we get Steen straight up. And I hopefully we stay there, close to other teams, playing good right now, and hopefully we keep it that way because we are a young team, but we're playing good now.
You're a young team with a lot of people watching you, Jose. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
That's Jose Vidra, the Expos' fine second baseman, and the Expos trying to let the Blue Jays know that they're a pretty good ball club themselves. Now let's go back to baseball tonight. Here's Dave.
Thank you, Buck. Pat, it's very important for the Expos that this guy's doing what he's doing, batting ahead of Rondell White and Vladimir Guerrero.
Yeah, he sure is, with an on-base percentage over 400 and a batting average of 360. That's pretty special, but out of that number 2 hole, driving in 40 runs, that is extra special. And this guy, obviously, I think just by those numbers alone right there, and it's only June 10th, he deserves to be in the All-Star game.
Well, let's see who the fans have starting at the moment. On reputation alone, I would suggest Craig Biggio. Alfonso can clearly earn his spot there. There's another name we don't see. Jeff Kent has all-star numbers.
Well, just like the first base position, I think in the NL, the second base position is a power position. You saw those names up there, but you didn't see Jeff Kent. You didn't see Jay Bell. Eric Young of the Chicago Cubs is having a great year. I think Vidro is having a great year. You've seen some great second basemen. It's going to be awfully tough because there's going to be a couple guys who aren't going to go.
But Guerrero and Vidro have been leading the Expos all season long, and it really would be important, I think, for the Expos to have both of them in the All-Star game. The Expos have them both on the field today against the Blue Jays. Stay with us. More to come from baseball tonight.
Canada's most watched sports network.
What can't Vladimir Guerrero do on a baseball field? He had a breakout year last season, and it's more of the same this year. He has all the tools, and he uses them often. He can run, hit for power. He can field, and he can throw out anybody, anywhere. He's in the top 10 in 5 offensive categories in the National League. He's fun to watch. He's Montreal's superstar, and he leads the Expos against Toronto next.
Labatt Blue Jays baseball on TSN. Today, the Expos and the Blue Jays, live from Skydome.
Welcome again to Baseball Tonight. The Toronto Blue Jays feeling a little better about themselves than the Expos are after last night's 13-3 victory. The Expos have been hammered 3 straight times now. They lost the last 2 games of the Yankees series and then gave up those 13 runs last night, while the Jays find themselves only 3 games out of the division lead held by the New York Yankees. Jays pitching sets up a little better for this series as the Expos trot out another rookie today, Tony Armas Jr., Kelvim Escobar for the Blue Jays. Let's get to the Sky Dome. Sunny as can be today, and say hi once again to Dan Schulman and Buck Martinez.
Dave, a real chance here to look at not just 2 of the best young hitters in a baseball, but 2 of the best hitters in a baseball, period. Carlos Delgado and Vladimir Guerrero don't get a lot of attention compared to guys who play in the big U.S. markets, but their numbers really are second to none.
Well, the styles of these 2 young hitters is as different as you can get. Carlos Delgado has developed into one of the more patient power hitters in all of baseball, and his counterpart from the Expos, Vladimir Guerrero, is a free swinger, but look at their numbers. Guerrero hitting .374 with 18 homers and 51 RBIs, and he's slugging .720. He doesn't have a scouting report. He'll hit anything you throw toward him. Carlos Delgado, on the other hand, batting .344, 23 and 60. He, too, is slugging over .700. And Delgado has had to be very patient because they don't pitch to him. They don't give him much to hit. But we saw last week against the Atlanta Braves, he will wait out pitchers until he gets good pitches to hit.
One thing the Expos have always been known for is the way they develop young players. And they've got a lot of good young players again this year. The pitcher today for Montreal, Tony Armas, is one of those. Although he's not originally from the Montreal system, he came to the Expos in the Pedro Martinez deal, along with another young pitcher, Carl Bavano. And I don't know if you can win a deal in which you give up Pedro Martinez, but they got 2 good young arms.
Well, they sure did. And these 2 young arms are in their 5-man rotation, so I think that Jim Beattie is very pleased with their production. Tony Armas Jr. has got a great arm. He's been around baseball his whole life. He shows the composure of a more experienced pitcher when he's on the mound, and I think you're going to be impressed with his velocity and his composure here today against the Blue Jays.
Carl Pavano's also been very good for them. Javier Vasquez, another very good young starter who the Blue Jays won't see in this series. But today it is Armas for the Expos as they try to bounce back from a 13-3 loss to the Blue Jays last night. For Toronto, Kelvim Escobar coming off a complete game victory his last time out.
Labatt Blue Jays baseball on TSN, brought to you by Labatt Blue. A whole lot can happen out of the blue. And by Ford, for now, forever.
Expos and the Blue Jays, the Montreal offense really driven by the 2-3-4-5 hitters. Jose Vidro, Rondell White, Vladimir Guerrero, and Lee Stevens are all on pace to drive in better than 100 runs this season. And the Expo lineup is brought to you by Midas Car Care, the way it should be.
Right-hander Kelvin Escobar goes to the mound against Montreal. He is 1-0 against the Expos. That came last year in a start, went 8 innings against the Expos. 5-6 on the season, coming off a great start against Florida down in Miami. It's 9 innings, walked just 1 batter, and had 10 strikeouts. His numbers are improving all the while, but it always gets back to his ability to throw strikes. Defensively in the outfield, good speed here, and it'll be a factor with this hot afternoon. Ball should be flying. Gonzalez and Bush up the middle. Homer Bush returned last night. Batista is back in the lineup after missing several games with that sprain of his side. Delgado and Fletcher round out the defense.
And leading it off for Montreal this afternoon against Escobar will be Wilton Guerrero, Vladimir's older brother, who is acting as the DH for the Expos again here today. Wilton runs well, can play second base in the outfield, but doesn't have anywhere close to the raw ability that Vladimir has. Although I don't know that anybody has anywhere close to the ability that Vladimir has.
Yeah, that's not to condemn him for sure, because Vladimir is in a class by himself.
Wilton's 25. Vladimir is only 24. That's a frightening thought. He's the cleanup hitter for the Expos.
One of the special players in baseball with his ability with the bat and with the glove.
2-1 from Escobar. Misses a little bit high, ball 3. Remember, Escobar is coming off one of his best performances. It came down in Florida last Sunday. He went the distance, and he walked only 1. He'll match that 1 batter into this one.
Well, it's a pretty deep lineup, and you have to make sure you don't give him those extra base runners. There's his line from his last start Sunday against the Marlins. 9 innings, 8 hits, just 2 earned runs. He had but the 1 walk, and he had 10 strikeouts. He used his fastball very effectively against Florida. You can see by his approach to that first batter, he was trying to get the fastball over.
Here's one of the unsung players in the major leagues right now. Second baseman Jose Vidro. All he's doing is hitting a .363, 4th in the National League, and he's also got 20 doubles already. Had 45 of them last year. Runners going, and Vidro rips it into right center field. Over to make the grab. No, it's foul. Mondesi reached down and missed it, and rounding third and heading home is Wilton Guerrero as the Expos take an early lead, and right away you can hear that once again there are a lot of Expo fans here at Skydome.
Leadoff walk, and Jose Vidro's 21st double of the season has the Expos out in front early here. That was a fastball, and Vidro has just been on fire. He missed 4 games because of a strained finger ligament, but he is back in the lineup. Look at the approach at that fastball down and away, and he hooks it by Mondesi. Rao had a bead on it, but the ball carried right over his glove all the way to the wall.
1-0 Montreal, and here's Rondell White, the left fielder. Another guy who's having a good season, hitting over 300, 41 RBIs already. Playing well in spite of some chronically sore knees. He has trouble on the turf at Montreal and elsewhere, obviously, and has been moved from center field to left field the last couple of years. And actually, his agent tried to get him a trade out of Montreal in the offseason, and there were some teams interested, among them the New York Yankees. But for now, White remains an Expo.
Now, there was a lot of speculation he was going to be dealt because Seattle Mariners were looking for a left fielder. The Yankees felt like they had a void in left field. Tony Batista, sensing that it might be time to come in here and try to get Escobar to throw the ball over the plate. He has struggled and fallen behind all of the hitters he has faced so far.
Comes in 5-6 on the season. ERA of 4.65. Expos already have a lead here today. And it's 2-0 on White. Grounded up the middle into center field. Getting the way, Vidro. Expos take a 2-0 lead.
Now, good approach by White. Chases home Jose Vidro. White just wanting to make sure he stays on the ball, thinking about advancing the runner from second base. Gets himself a ground ball base hit right back up the middle. He stays square to the ball, bounces over the mound through the infield. Vidro scores easily, and it's 2-0. And this guy is somebody that they're going to have to consider for the All-Star game, Jose Vidro, the way he is hit in the first half.
And here's another guy who should be there, Vladimir Guerrero, the right fielder, as White draws a throw. Expos don't run very much. They're second from the bottom in the National League in stolen bases, and they're dead last in stolen base percentage. White's got 5, and that ties him for the club lead. And there certainly is more speed on this team, you would think, to put up better numbers. White can run, Guerrero can run, but he gets thrown out more than half the time. Vidro's got decent speed, but it's not as big a part of their game as it used to be. Inside to Guerrero, the Expo fans all over Escobar. There are a lot of Montrealers here.
Sure are. This fastball up and in, and Escobar has not had good command of his fastball in this first inning. And watch this pitch. Right up under the hands of Guerrero. And a lot of the fans here at Skydome took exception to that.
One of the few pitches you can throw Guerrero that he won't swing at. He swings at the first pitch more than any hitter in baseball. And although you wouldn't recommend his aggressiveness to everybody, it sure works for him.
Boy, it does. And he has just been so aggressive all year long. And when you go over Guerrero in the scouting report, you say, you know what, why don't we just throw it down the middle and make him decide?
The last place he's looking for it. Ripped way out of here in left center field. Vladimir Guerrero, 4-0 Montreal. so much for right down the middle to make him decide.
Yeah, he decided he wanted to hit that one in the seats. We told you about two of the best power hitters in the game, Vladimir Guerrero and Carlos Delgado, and Guerrero fires the first volley here today. That ball moved to the inside a little bit. Look at that stance. A little pose there to have a good look at it because it's deep into the seats in left center. No doubter. And the Expos have jumped all over Kelvim Escobar. They're going to have to find a permanent seat for this guy at the All-Star game.
Escobar has given up a walk and a double and a single and a homer, has not gotten an out. And the Expos have an early 4-0 lead on Vladimir Guerrero's 19th home run of the season. RBIs 52 and 53. And here's Lee Stevens, the first baseman, who was part of that three-way deal during spring training in which the Blue Jays got Brad Fulmer and Texas got David Segui and Montreal got Stevens. And although he's not hitting for a great average, look at the production, providing some pretty good protection for Vladimir Guerrero. Delgado on a couple of hops to Escobar covering. That's the first out of the day and the first chance for Blue Jay fans to make a little noise. The Expo fans had been having all the fun.
Many pitchers in the big leagues have a difficult time settling in the first inning. And boy, oh boy, when you have a potent attack like the Expos, top of their order, they can put up crooked numbers on you in the first. The leadoff walk, boy, how many times do you walk that first guy and it puts pressure on the starter? Works out of the stretch before he's really into the tempo of the game.
Here's the catcher today, Brian Snyder, just called up a couple of weeks ago from AAA Ottawa. Expos have had a ton of injuries, most of them involving the pitchers, but they've been shuffling guys in and out behind the plate as well. Charlie O'Brien, the former Blue Jay, is with them, as is Chris Widger. And Lenny Webster was just put on the DL, so there's no shortage of catchers or even experienced catchers. Schneider's the one guy in that group who doesn't have a lot of experience. Hitting .273 just a couple of weeks into his career.
Felipe Alou sitting alongside the pitching coach Bobby Cuellar, and Alou has had the ability to develop young players year after year after year. Snyder's another one of those young players, and he's probably more advanced behind the plate than he is at the plate. They regard him as a very good catch and throw guy. He, along with the starter in last night's game, Chris Widger, very good defensively.
2 balls and 2 strikes the count. 4-0 Montreal early. And he chased down low. The tag applied by Fletcher, 2 down.
Total different story when you get ahead of batters. Kelvin Escobar is able to polish off the Expo catcher with that split finger pitch, but it's all set up because he threw strikes early in the count and got the hitter in the hole.
Now the third baseman this afternoon, Trace Coquelet, who came on during last night's game after Mike Mordecai suffered a strained muscle under his left arm. He's day-to-day. Coquelet last year hit .326 at AAA. 2 things you can be sure of in the Montreal system. If you're young, you'll get a chance to play. And before long, somebody else will be trying to take that chance away from you because it's just a constant wave of players. And it's why you like to see somebody like Vladimir Guerrero a year ago get signed to a 5-year deal, so the Expos get some cost certainty. And again, who knows where the franchise will be in a couple of years, but at least Guerrero's locked up and they don't have to worry about arbitration or anything like that. 1-2. Escobar faced the Expos last year and beat them. His only previous meeting with Montreal. But he's dug himself and his teammates quite a hole here this afternoon. And they're going to face a guy they're not familiar with in Tony Armas. Got him. Back-to-back strikeouts to end the inning. 3 in a row retired after 4 runs for the Expos right off the bat. And Vladimir Guerrero does it again.
Make it wins. 1-800-668-5626.
I probably could name, maybe not for everyone, maybe two for everyone.
Broken bat, 2-1 liner to Gonzalez back to first. And Alex Gonzalez goes airborne to snare Lee Stevens' line drive. That's a winner in Wynn's extended play.
That's what broke the bat off the end of the bat. What a great catch. Timed perfectly by Gonzalez.
Today's lineup for the Blue Jays is brought to you by Midas Car Care, the way it should be. And this lineup in this order hasn't been together very often. You have to go back to the middle of April for what I guess you could call the opening day lineup. This is the lineup that Jim Fregosi wants to see. He's got a Homer Bush back up in the 2 spot. Alex Gonzalez hitting 9th. Brad Fulmer, of course, gets a chance to play against his ex-team. But the two guys really doing an unbelievable job the last week or so, Shannon Stewart and Carlos Delgado.
They'll get their first look at Tony Armas Jr., who won his first Major League game last time out against the Baltimore Orioles. He went 8 innings, allowed the Orioles just 2 hits, and struck out 6. For the season, you can see he doesn't give up many hits, and his control, now that's what you expect with young pitchers, a little inconsistent with his control, but boy, they love his stuff. He is, Dan mentioned, one of the 2 pitchers picked up from the Boston Red Sox in the Pedro Martinez deal. Defensively in the outfield, Peter Bergeron in center can really go get him. He's got a couple of good outfielders to either side, in White in left, and Guerrero in right, Cabrera and Vidra up the middle. Maybe one of the better unknown tandems up the middle. They've really improved defensively.
And leading it off, Shannon Stewart. Last night, 3 doubles and a home run. One of the best days he's ever had at the Major League level. Tied a Blue Jays record with 4 extra base hits in 1 game. Roy Howell and Damaso Garcia, the only 2 other Blue Jays ever to do that. And look at the batting average. 387. We interviewed him before the game, and he talked a little bit about coming off the disabled list. He was on the DL with a bad hamstring for about a month, but as soon as he came off the DL, he was swinging the bat as well as he was swinging it before. And he said then and said again before the game today, didn't feel all that comfortable, and it was a real struggle, although it looks like anything but.
Now, you're going to watch Blue Jay hitters trying to fight off that sinking fastball from Armas all day long, and although Shannon Stewart says he doesn't feel that comfortable at the plate, the results have been marvelous. 3 doubles and a home run last night. And the Expos are very aware that he's the one that jump-starts the offense. They want to keep him off the bases.
Armas sat in front of 1 and 2. And Stewart checks the swing. Armas's dad was a pretty good slugger back in the mid to late 70s and all through the 80s. Won a home run title for the Boston Red Sox in 1984 when Tony Armas Sr. hit 43 home runs. Swing and a miss. Stewart's gone.
Last start against the Orioles, Tony Armas Jr. struck out the side in the first inning, and he sets the tone for this ball game with a strikeout of Shannon Stewart to start the game.
Armas and Pavano coming over from Boston in the Pedro Martinez deal. 2/5 of a young and pretty good rotation the Expos have if everybody stays healthy. Here's Homer Bush, who got it back into the lineup last night. Had a couple of hits as Jim Fregosi put him right back in the 2 spot. 1 pitch and a ground out to short, 2 down.
And we talked about the improved play of the Expos defensively, and up the middle they have really played well. And you're going to get a lot of ground ball outs with Tony Armas Jr. on the mound.
2 outs, nobody on, and Raul Mondesi taking a little bit of time to get to the plate. Expos already out in front of 4-0 here today after the Blue Jays won 13-3 last night. David Wells and Dustin Hermanson to wrap up the series tomorrow. There'll be another series up in Montreal next month. Mondesi, a .264 hitter with 12 home runs. Armas last year spent most of the year at Double-A, and And a very good ERA, just 2.89. But like a growing number of young prospects in all organizations, sometimes AAA is more for guys who have been in the majors and to maybe get sent back down. A lot of guys skip AAA.
Well, I think it's because the AAA franchises are basically teams for profit. They'll put older players there trying to win and be, you know, a success at the gate. So your prospects generally will stay down in AA, and they'll allow them to work and get regular turns in the rotation, and they can live with the growing pains of young pitchers.
Armas did make a brief stop at AAA this year. He suffered an elbow injury in a winter ball in Venezuela, and he missed all the spring and started working his way up through the minors on rehab in April. Had a start at A-ball, then a couple with Ottawa before coming up to the Expos. 2-2 the count on Mondesi. And he checks the swing, ball 3.
Dan, it was the elbow that caused the Expos to take the split finger pitch away from Tony Armas. He was a fastball splitter guy, like so many young power pitchers, and they decided to emphasize the changeup as an off-speed pitch instead of a splitter.
3 up and 3 down to go the Blue Jays in the first, and Armas mixes in a couple of strikeouts. 4-0 Montreal through 1. After a rough beginning to the game for Kelvim Escobar, making his 13th start of the season for the Blue Jays. Right-handers 5-6, 4.65 ERA. The scouting report on him is brought to you by Toyota Tundra. Got what it takes?
Well, there's no substitute for experience, and it's going to take a while for these young pitchers to get together. He's had a great fastball against Florida. He had command of it all afternoon. Changeup in the splitter for strikeouts, and that's what he did to end the first inning once he finally got into the groove. And the big thing about Escobar is his stuff, there's no question about his ability. He just has to find that consistency that you need to be a successful starter.
Expos got all 4 runs before Escobar recorded an out in the first inning. Here's the number 8 batter, the shortstop Orlando Cabrera, to begin the second. 246 on the season and some pops, 6 homers, 12 doubles already for Cabrera. You look at the Expos as a team, and we've already seen Jose Vidro with a double. They lead the National League in doubles. And it reminded me of something that Brad Fulmer said back when he came to Toronto about Olympic Stadium and why he hit so few home runs. As Cabrera loops one into right center field, and Cruz has to make a running catch into the gap to make the play.
Kind of took a funny angle after that ball. I think he expected it to carry farther into the alley in right center, and it kind of died on him, and so he had to cut across in front of Mondesi to make the running catch. Right here, it looks like he's going to have to go deeper, but the ball died on him, hung up a little bit. There's not an awful lot of breeze here at Skydome today, but I think what breeze is here knocked that ball down.
1 out, now 4 in a row retired by Escobar, and that'll bring up the center fielder Peter Bergeron. Chases the first pitch, grounds it out to Delgado, and again Escobar covering, 2 down. And within just the first inning and 2/3, if you've never seen Kelvim Escobar before, you got the picture here, because he can be overpowering, and then he can get whacked, and really it'll change back and forth so quickly you don't know why.
Yeah, and then once again, not to harp on it, but that's what you get with young pitchers.
Here's Wilton Guerrero. He walked and scored on the Vidro double to get it all started in the first. Two. Throwing strikes, getting out in front. Guerrero hitting .250 on the season. Just foul at the first base line. See the number 9 on the right sleeve of all the Montreal Expos. They are honoring the memory of Rocket Richard, and will wear that number for the duration of the season.
Quite a tribute when you consider this the first time a sports team has ever honored someone from another sport. Oh, 2 from Escobar.
Good job by Guerrero just to get a piece of that.
Wilton Guerrero came up with the Dodgers, and he was the guy that everybody talked about initially, and there were some rumblings that, you know, he's got a younger brother that looks like a pretty good player, but they thought that Wilton was going to be kind of an offensive infielder. And his brother certainly has taken the spotlight away from him.
Came over to Montreal in a big trade a couple of years ago that saw Mark Resolana and Carlos Perez go the other way. Bergeron, who's in center field today, also came over in that deal from the Dodgers. He's fouled off a couple, staying alive at 0-2 against Escobar. Nothing Montreal, top of the second. Roof wide open. Nice warm day.
See Escobar motioning with his hand that he didn't finish up that last breaking pitch, and that's why it sailed up and away from Guerrero. Darren Fletcher has to go through some frustrating times with Escobar, going back to the first inning when he couldn't get anything by the Expo hitters, and then he breezes through the next several batters. And you can see they're having a difficult time getting together here. It's going to take them a while to really get comfortable, and when Escobar's pitches are there and his command is on, it's easy.
0-2 again. A ripped foul right side. Guerrero has done a very nice job here, fouling off 4 consecutive pitches. At this point, you can see upstairs, down and in, he pretty much has to chase whatever he sees.
Well, this team outside of Vladimir Guerrero is pretty selective and pretty patient. They'll shorten up their swings with 2 strikes, and they'll become very defensive of the strike zone, trying to fight off those borderline pitches.
One ball, 2 strikes.
With Escobar, of course, the fastball is his primary pitch, and that's the pitch that was so good for him when he struck out 10 Marlins last Sunday.
The chopper out in front of the plate. Fletcher's going to let it roll foul. The speed of Wilton Guerrero might not have been able to make a play on that play.
Pretty good decision by Darren Fletcher. He came out from behind home plate and already sensing that Wilton Guerrero was long gone down the first baseline. Saw the spin on the ball and let it trickle into foul territory.
Fletcher's a guy, of course, who's been on both sides of this rivalry, if you will, between Montreal and Toronto. Says he still really enjoys interleague play. You'll get different opinions from different players, but Fletcher maybe can speak about it with more authority than anybody else, having spent just about all of his major league career in Canada. Again, the 1-2. Looped into left center, base hit Guerrero. Pretty impressive at bat.
That is some at bat. Boy, he fouled off a bunch of tough pitches and just flipped that ball over the shortstop's head. And you've got to give him a lot of credit because he fell behind 0-2. And watch how he stays on this pitch. Splitter down and away and just throws the head of the bat at the ball. A little bit out in front, but he keeps a level bat as he makes contact and drives it into left field.
And that will bring up Vidro, who doubled Guerrero in last inning. There goes the runner. The throw will tail into him, and safe at second is Wilton Guerrero with his second steal of the season.
And Darren Fletcher didn't have much of a chance there. Guerrero, not wasting any time at all, gets a running lead over at first base, and you can see Fletcher's throw tails on him as he rushed it, sensing the good jump by Guerrero.
A runner in scoring position with 2 outs for Vidro, and the count of 1-0. With his double in the first inning, Vidro's now 4th in the National League in batting, 3rd in the National League in hits, and 2nd in the National League in doubles.
Yeah, he's a big-time hitter, and much of the success as a hitter comes from the fact he keeps his head so still, and he is very quiet, really sees the ball well.
Line drive into center. Trapped by Cruz. In to score comes Guerrero. Second hit, second RBI of the day for Vidro, and it's 5-0.
Now, this team's got a lot of balance, and when Vidro is back in that 2 spot, they've got balance up and down the lineup. Switch hitter with the ability to drive in runs. What a play by Cruz. He wasn't going to catch it, but he made sure he smothers it and keeps it from going past him out to the center field fence. No telling where Vidro would have ended up if that gets by him.
Now Rondell White, who had an RBI single up the middle his first time up. So 5 runs on 5 hits already for Montreal. Well, if these guys keep it up, the big sluggers from the 2 through 5 spot in the lineup, Vidro, White, Guerrero, and Stevens. 3 of the 4 have RBIs today, and all 4 of them are on pace to drive in 100 runs this season. Something that no 2 Expos have even done in the same season before. Now they've got 4 guys on pace to do it. Already Vladimir's got a 53. Stevens has 47. And Vidro and White each have 42.
They've never had 200 RBI guys in the same season.
Unless they're kidding us in the notes.
No, I believe you, but it's hard to imagine, given all those great teams.
We'll do a little more research and report back to you when we return. It's 5-0. Montreal leading the Blue Jays. Lead for the Expos over the Blue Jays here in Toronto. They have beaten up on Kelvim Escobar pretty good so far here today. On the mound for the Expos, Tony Armas just won a Major League win, but that was in his last start. Scouting report on him is brought to you by Toyota Tundra. Got what it takes.
Now, like all the Expo starters, he works very quickly and aggressively. He wants to throw a lot of first pitch strikes. His fastball is what hitters call a heavy ball. By that, it sinks a lot and it's difficult to get airborne. And he's got the composure of a veteran. Been around baseball his entire life, of course. His father, Tony Armas Jr., longtime big leaguer, with his best years in Boston.
And here comes Carlos Delgado, who hit another home run last night. Has 8 home runs in his last 10 games. And is now the American League leader in home runs. When you look through the leaderboards that are put in the stats pack that we get every day, you can't look at the National League page without finding Guerrero, and you can't look at the American League page without finding Delgado. They are just all over the place in every conceivable offensive category. Carl Everett having an incredible season himself, just 2 back of Delgado. After Delgado, Fulmer, and then a Batista. Last night, number 23, part of the Blue Jays' 13-run attack. And again, Buck, not everything's being pulled left center field.
No, that's the sign of a true high-average power hitter when you can go the other way and drive balls out of the park. I think he does that as well as anybody. We have seen several home runs right down the left field line on tough pitches away.
Leading off the second, Blue Jays down to 5-0, 2-2 the count. Armas got the Blue Jays in order in the first, including strikeouts of Stewart and Mondesi.
Give you an idea of what kind of month Delgado was having right now, and we're just into the 10th day of June. Last June, 4 homers, 14 RBIs for the month. He hit 190. So he's off to a great start.
Draws the walk here to lead off the inning and get Brad Fulmer up to the plate. The former Montreal Expo involved in that 3-way deal with Toronto and Texas, and all 3 teams have to be pretty happy. Texas got a good hitter who can play defense if Palmeiro needs help. Montreal got a little more power to give Guerrero some protection, and the Blue Jays got a guy who is content to just DH. which Segui was not.
And he has not been very happy lately because of the interleague play and the
Yeah.
fact that he hasn't had many at-bats.
303 hitters, 7 home runs. Last year with Montreal, it didn't go as well for Fulmer as the year before did, at least in the first half of the season. He struggled out of the gate and found himself platooning very early in the season. He was upset about it. He knew Felipe Alou wasn't a big fan of his defense, and it seems like everything started deteriorating at the same time, including his relationship with Alou. And finally, Fulmer was sent down to the minors in June. But when he came back for the second time in the middle of July, he put together a great 2.5 months, hit over 300, wound up with 34 doubles on the season in spite of missing a month. And seems like he's gotten a bit of a fresh start out of Montreal. Lee Stevens has gone to Montreal and been exactly what they were looking for.
Well, Brad Fulmer is very intense, as you know, Dan, and he came to spring training 2 weeks ahead of time this spring, solely to work on his defense. And he and Perry Hill, the first base coach, who doubles as the infield defensive coach, they worked hard on improving his play around first base, and Perry's done a good job with Lee Stevens initially in Texas, and then the 2 middle infielders here, Vidro and Cabrera, and he had a good start on Brad Fulmer's work this spring.
Down to first, and nothing Delgado can do about that. He's already peeling back toward the dugout as Fulmer lines into the double play.
When that ball is hit behind you, you take a short lead and you just can't react in time. It's hit right to the first baseman. Delgado's erased. Fulmer hit it hard, but right at Lee Stevens. There's just the bounce off lead. You can see Delgado takes one step, and even if he had come to a complete stop after that lead, there was no way that he was going to get back before Stevens could retire him.
So with 2 outs, here's third baseman Tony Batista, who rejoined the lineup last night after missing about 8 days with that pulled rib cage muscle, and he had a couple of hits last night.
Remember when he initially hurt his side, he said he'd be back in 1 day. All he needed was the day off, and those things are very difficult injuries to overcome.
Skies a fly ball to right. Drifting into the shadows is Vladimir Guerrero, and he's going to make a pretty tough catch back toward the track, but he'll make it, and the Blue Jays are gone in the second.
After 2 homers by Travis Fryman, the Cleveland Indians got a save from Steve Carsey to beat Cincinnati 6-5. The Showcase Series are showcasing the strength of the American League as the White Sox beat the Cubs, the Yankees beat the Mets.
Rivalry weekend. Battle of Ohio, Battle of New York, Battle of Chicago, and here the Battle of Canada between the Blue Jays and Expos. And right now it's a one-sided battle favoring Montreal, leading 5-0. Heading to the third, and the guy at the plate, Vladimir Guerrero, most responsible for that with his 2-run home run back in the first.
Escobar had struggled with his control walking the leadoff batter, gave up a double to Vidro, and then Vladdy, and look at that. I mean, that's a no-doubter. He came to a complete stop to have an eye at this home run, and Escobar had a good look at it as well.
1-2. We talked about Guerrero and the group of 4 on Montreal that might drive in 100 runs and how it's never been done before. No, it's never been done before. The closest that the Expos came was back in 1982 when Al Oliver had 109 RBIs, as you see Guerrero moving up on the leaders in the National League home run race. Al Oliver had 109 to lead Montreal back in 82, and Gary Carter and Tim Wallach each had 97. But coming into this season, only 10 times had an Expo driven in 100 runs. Guerrero twice, Gary Carter twice, and 6 other players once apiece. And you would figure with all the great players and lineups and teams they've had, to be more than that.
Tim Wallach and Andre Dawson.
But it has always been a park that has favored pitching. This gets back to what we started saying about Brad Fulmer and why they hit so many doubles. It's because you can't hit that many home runs at Olympic Stadium unless you're a guy like Vladimir Guerrero who can hit them anywhere. Fulmer hit twice as many homers on the road as an Expo as he did at home. to a guy who has walked 22 times this year, but 13 of them intentional walks. He is a free swinger. Two-hopper out to Alex Gonzalez, and Guerrero's retired.
Don't you love to see that effort? A ground ball hit to the shortstop after he hit a 2-run home run into the seats in his first at-bat. He's disappointed. He expects it to be a 6-3 put-out, and he still hustled all the way down to first base.
Now Lee Stevens, who grounded out his first time up, had a home run in last night's game, hit one off Chris Carpenter. Stevens has done the rounds in professional baseball. He was in the Blue Jays system for a year at Syracuse. Came up as a big prospect with the Angels. Also played a couple of years in Japan. I remember reading some quotes that he had given right after the trade, and he was asked, you know, you're going from a team that's been to the playoffs in Texas, you're heading to Montreal, how do you feel? And he said, you know what? We've been all over. We've been in Japan. My wife and my kids will go up there. We'll respect the culture. We're honored to be in the major leagues, and we'll make it our home as long as we're there. Boy, isn't that refreshing?
Can you print that? Well, you know what? He had such a tough time when he first came up with the California Angels. At that point, Wally Joyner had just been dealt away, and he was going to replace Wally Joyner. And he was in a no-win situation because there was no replacing Joyner at that point, and he was a young guy that had to battle through that.
Draws the walk. Second given up today by Escobar. Runner at first, one out. The catcher, Brian Snyder, is coming up. He struck out his first time up. Delgado comes off the bag as Escobar moves to the plate. Snyder lifts a fly ball. Medium depth center field for Cruz, 2 down. Well, the Expos, as Dave Hodge mentioned off the top of the show, have actually lost their last 3 games, but they still come into today 31-26, 5 games over 500. And here and there before the season, a few people called them maybe a dark horse contender for the wild card. Jim Beattie, their general manager, was up front about it. He said, I expect us to contend for a postseason position this year, and it looks like they just may do that. Coquelette sends a fly ball to right field, and Amandisi's got a bit of room on the track to haul it in and end the inning. On to the bottom of the third, 5-0 Expos.
Labatt Blue Jays baseball on TSN, brought to you in part by Ford. For now, forever.
Bottom of the third, Dan Schulman and Buck Martinez with you at Scotland. It's the Expos 5, the Blue Jays nothing. Tony Armas has been impressive. He has walked a batter, but that batter was immediately erased on a double play. Blue Jays don't have a hit yet. And here to lead off the third for the Blue Jays is Darren Fletcher, who has been either an Expo or a Blue Jay since 1992. Ground ball down to first, and an easy play for Stevens, 1 down. Let's get an update back into baseball tonight.
We'll look at the American League's leading hitter in action, Darren Erstad, with runners aboard, and this is his 100th hit of the season. It's a 2-run double. The Anaheim Angels were beaten by Randy Johnson last night. They have a 3-0 lead on the Diamondbacks' Omar Dahl today.
June 10th with 100 hits. What a start for Darren Erstad, and he was motivated. He had a disappointing season a year ago.
Jose Cruz sends a fly ball toward the left field corner. It'll bounce down into the corner, and it'll be a ground rule double for Cruz, as the Blue Jays have their first hit of the afternoon.
I think that ball was really affected by the wind, and it was going to be a tough play for Rondell White, but right as he got toward where he was going to make the catch, the ball was really knocked down, and it falls to the turf. Sinking fastball away from Jose Cruz Jr., and you can see it's a high fly ball, but the wind pushes it down. And now watch as Rondell gets over, the wind blows it away from him farther and farther, and one bounce into the seats for a ground rule double. He was played way over into left center and had a long run.
Runner at second, one out. The batter is Alex Gonzalez, hitting .235. Gonzalez, though, on a pretty good stretch. He's got at least one hit and at least one RBI in 5 consecutive games. Fastball's there for a strike, 1-1. I was talking to Dave Van Horn before the game, of course, the longtime Expo broadcaster, both television and radio, who is working on the internet this year because the Expos don't have any English language rights of any kind. Gonzalez grounds one to third, high throw, and a good play by Stevens. It'll be 2 down. And he was telling me that Tony Armas prefers just Armas, not Armas Jr. And they asked him why, and Armas's response was, there's only one junior in Major League Baseball. And that's the son of a guy who played, who understands their
baseball, yeah?
Yeah. Leave Griffey his name, and I'll just be Tony Armas.
Well, there was the junior when I first became a fan of baseball, and it was Junior Gilliam. Jim Gilliam of the Dodgers, and he went by Junior, and that was what everybody called him. But you're right, you know, when you say Junior, who's Junior? He's in Cincinnati.
Whoops, up and in to Stewart. Well, Jose Cruz got a lot of Junior when he was still in Seattle.
Yeah.
A lot of people called him Junior Griffey and Junior Cruz. They were a pair of juniors. Ed Sprague's a junior. Cal Ripken obviously is a junior, and he went by, or at least was known as Cal Ripken Jr. for the first 6 or 7 years of his career.
They called him Junior all the time.
Stewart struck out his first time up. And inside again, a ball 2. It looks like the Expos have decided the only way to make Stewart slow down is to move him off the plate a little bit.
And look at Armas. He is towed the rubber and looking in for another sign. Says, let's go to work. You want to play some baseball? He's trying to figure out a way to get Shannon Stewart out. Shannon had 3 doubles and a home run last night.
That's another thing Dave Van Horn was saying is remarkable about Armas, just 23 years of age, but having been the kind of kid who grew up on major league fields and in major league clubhouses, he's not in awe of anything or anyone that he encounters.
Now, and I think the Latin players have a distinct advantage because they play in winter ball in front of their hometown fans in a very charged atmosphere. I mean, they have been playing this type of baseball for several years before they get to the big leagues.
Second, Vidro makes the play. Stewart's gone. And the Blue Jays will strand to the Cruz double through 3, 5-0 Montreal. News tomorrow, a triple header from Euro 2000 on TSN. First out of Group B, it'll be Italy, the favorites in that group, taking on the long shots from Turkey. And then France against Denmark and the Czech Republic against the Netherlands. A couple of Group D matchups. I'm told Group D is the toughest group in Euro 2000. And I beg you to differ.
I won't differ. You've researched it. You're up on me.
Vic Router, Graham Leggett, and I held a conference call, and we are all up to speed on Euro 2000. Orlando Cabrera leads off the 4th for Montreal. It's the Expos 5 and the Blue Jays nothing. They got a 4 in the first, including a Vladimir Guerrero home run. Kelvim Escobar on the mound for the Blue Jays, and now working to a new catcher. Alberto Castillo has come into the game for Darren Fletcher, who just grounded out to begin the last inning, and no word's been given yet on the reason for the change. Remember, Fletcher last week strained a shoulder and missed a few days.
In Escobar's start in Florida, Escobar was pitching on Sunday, and he had to leave the game. Alberto Castillo came in and got a catcher's save, if you will.
Now, if you'd only had that stat when you were playing, you'd have made some money.
I'd have got the arbitration for years with that one. A catcher save.
Yeah. Remember that time Steve came in and he was all surly and snarling, and I got him calmed down?
Yeah, right. That didn't happen.
2-2, the count on Cabrera. Tony Batista, a couple of big hops, one down. You know, we laugh, but 50 years ago, the notion of a closer pitching one inning only, making millions of dollars, would have been ludicrous.
Yeah.
Maybe 50 years from now, maybe catchers will be coming in for, you know, just for the last couple of innings.
Well, the relief pitchers many years ago were the last pitchers on your staff. When you put a team together now, you look at the starting rotation, you really concentrate on probably the top 3 guys in your rotation and then the closer. I would say he's probably 3rd or 4th guy that they consider when they're putting the staff together.
There's Peter Bergeron. I was reading an article about a World Series that took place 1905, 1906, somewhere around there, and the top 2 pitchers for the winning team threw 69 of the 71 innings in the World Series. I can't remember what team or what pitchers were, but now that's almost 100 years ago now. There's a play for Homer Bush. But not only that, even during the regular season, if you take it back to the Christy Mathewson era and so forth, they would start every 4th day, not every 5th, and would pitch in relief between most of their starts.
And then you get down toward the pennant race time, and a lot of teams would cut down to 3. The Dodgers were notorious for that in the 60s. Koufax, Drysdale, Padres, Koufax, Drysdale, and Claude Osteen go to a 3-man rotation for the last 5 weeks of the season.
Spawn insane and pray for rain. There's Wilton Guerrero.
There's another guy on that team named Lou Burdette that was pretty good, too.
But he didn't rhyme. 2 down, nobody on here in the Montreal 4th. Guerrero has walked and scored and singled and scored. He's also got a stolen base today. Glove or no glove?
No glove.
Sounds like a no glove cheer.
No glove.
Yeah. Four in the first, 1 in the second for the Expos off Escobar. He's now retired 4 in a row as Guerrero shows bunt, takes a strike. It's 1-2. With 3 strikeouts today. He's walked a couple, one of whom came around to score, and that was Guerrero to lead off the game. Two-two pitch.
Well, he is having some tough at-bats. Escobar just can't put him away, and Wilton Guerrero continues to foul off Escobar's pitches. Fouled off several pitches in this last at-bat. Flared a base hit to left field.
Pulled down to first, knocked down by Delgado, and the inning is over. 5 in a row retired by Escobar, but the Blue Jays still trail Montreal 5-0. Homer Bush will lead off the 4th for the Blue Jays. Had a good night last night in his return to the lineup from a hip injury. Had a couple of hits, and Jim Fregosi thinks confidence means a lot to Homer Bush.
I think that's important. He had a great game in Knoxville. He got 3 or 4 hits down there, and it was time to get him back in the lineup, and hopefully he has some success.
And it helps when you come back, and he was able to play in that exhibition game. Got 3 hits in Knoxville on Thursday, came back and started last night. 2 for 5 with a couple of ribbies. They need his bat.
They'd love him to get on the base enough to be the aggressive base runner that he was last year. Grounded out his first time up today. He'll be followed by Mondesi and then Delgado. The word on Darren Fletcher, by the way, is that he did indeed aggravate his shoulder problem that he suffered last week. That's why he's out of the game. Alberto Castillo in. 0-2, the count on Bush. So at least for the moment, with a Batista back healthy and a Bush back healthy, Graybeck and Woodward both back on the bench, and both have been very good and very versatile for the Blue Jays, and figure to see playing time somewhere, sometime. Coquelin with a long throw and not nearly in time. Didn't come up with it cleanly, and Homer Bush given credit for an infield hit.
It's going to be a tough play for Coquelin, no matter if he bobbled it or not, because Homer Bush runs so well down the line. This will give you a good angle of the third baseman having to go to his right. He backhands it, goes off the heel of his glove. By the time he picks it up, he has to rush to throw, and it's wide of first base.
Leadoff man aboard for Raul Mondesi, who struck out to end the first inning.
Looks like Homer's got thoughts of stealing second. A bit late getting back to first base. Runners will get out there and try to coax a throw from the pitcher when they haven't seen him much, as is the case with Bush and Armas.
Not going, and Mondesi takes ball one. 5 runs down is not the normal time to be stealing a base, but as you've said, a baseball is so different these days that 5 runs down is like being 2 runs down was 10 years ago. You just never know when a team's going to come back, and teams are more likely to steal in these situations than they used to be.
Yeah, I think this philosophy has changed dramatically, especially in the American League, when you've got the DH. And a 5-run inning is very common now. So you just try to create things, make things happen.
Bush with 3 steals on the season. The count is 2-0 on Mondesi.
Mondesi had a good pitch to hit right there. He was thinking about hitting a home run, and he pulled his head off just a little bit. Got the fastball he was looking for. Brian Snyder is looking into the dugout. He's the young catcher for the Expos. He's thrown very well in his appearances, and he might have to throw one right here.
Has thrown out 3 of 8 with Montreal and was throwing out 41% at AAA. As Bush has to dive back in again. 32 steals last year for Homer, and there was a part of the season where he would routinely get a lead so that his left foot was almost on the turf. Now, as you can see, his right foot is just edging onto the turf. Mondesi pokes one into right field. Guerrero over toward the corner, has to make a running catch, and Bush is tagging and dives head first into second.
We saw down the left field line how Rondell White had to deal with it, and Vladimir Guerrero had to go deep into the corner and flag down this Mondesi drive. And because he is going away from the infield, that enables Homer Bush to tag up at first base. Watch him watch the play unfold. He sees it's going to be deep into the corner, goes back and tags up and beats the throw into second base. That's just heads up. That's just paying attention. So many base runners will concede, oh, that's a lazy fly ball to right, and give up on it.
Here's Delgado. Walked to lead off the second. Was erased on a double play. Runner at second, 1 out. 5-0 Montreal. Good fastball on the outside corner. It's 0-1. The walk to Delgado today is the only one that's been issued by Armas, whose control has been getting better and better. 11 walks in his first 2 starts, but then just 7 in his last 3. 1 ball and 1 strike. And you just can't emphasize enough, although it's very early in his career, how impressive it is to be holding opponents to a sub-200 average, which is what Armas has done through his first 5 starts of the season. Nice play behind the plate by Snyder to hold Bush at second.
Brian Snyder just slid to his right. Watch how quickly he gets over there. I mean, that ball was 5 feet in front of home plate, and he got his chest protector on the baseball to keep Bush from advancing. Way out in front, you can see how he pins the ball against his chest protector with his right elbow.
Two and one on Delgado, hitting .344 with 23 homers and 60 RBIs. Thought about it. 2 and 2.
And he threw him a changeup. Took the ball off of that fastball. Delgado had the fastball approach. He had checked his swing when he saw it was an off-speed pitch.
There's not a lot to be gained by saying so-and-so's on a pace for, except for the sheer realization of how incredible what Delgado's done to this point of the season is. But if he were to continue at this pace, he would hit 60 home runs and drive in 157 runs.
That's a good pace.
And he didn't do much at all the first 7-8 games of the season, and then he really got on a tear, and he's been on a tear ever since. He's a guy who doesn't wear down physically in the second half of the season. Last year, he said he felt much better in September than he did in May. Line drive into center field. It'll drop a base hit and hit Bergeron. Bush will come in to score, and Delgado's at second base.
Bergeron looked like he had a bead on that sinking line drive, and then when it hit the turf, looked like he may have lost it because he turns his head away from the ball. It hits him. Take a look at him. Here he comes, and right there, I don't think he saw it when he hit. When the ball hit in front of him, watch him take his head away from it as if he didn't see it. Or maybe he just got handcuffed by it, was overmatched. The ball goes off his glove and allows Delgado to move into second.
To 1 is the score. Delgado out at second base. Double and an RBI is the scoring on that play. 61st RBI of the season for Delgado as Fulmer fouls it off. Delgado, pending what Edgar Martinez accomplishes, is now just 2 RBIs back of the American League leader. Wasn't really biting the last few days, and day after day, reporter after reporter asked him what it meant to play against the Expos, a team that he spent a couple of years with, and a team not that he left on bad terms, but he left wondering where it all went wrong. How did he go from such a hotshot rookie in '98 to a guy who was platooned and then demoted in '99, looking for a new start? He's got one, but he didn't really add any fuel to the fire at all when he was asked about it.
Yeah, that's the best way to approach things. And the old saying, hey, you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything. And they were trying to get him to express some of his feelings, and obviously he was disappointed when things didn't work out, I'm sure, but he's anxious to take advantage of the fresh start here in Toronto.
Lined into a double play his first time up. He's got Delgado out at second, only 1 out. And the Expos lead 5-1. One-two from Armas, pulled foul. Full-time at DH for the Blue Jays, no first base, and it's been all Delgado's, although Fulmer does take ground balls every day during BP. After he hits, he goes out and takes a little bit of infield just in case. If for whatever reason the Blue Jays were to need a first baseman, if Delgado needed a day off over hurt, Fulmer would be the logical guy to go in there, even though defense has never been his strong suit.
Well, we talked about his approach this spring with the Expos, and that he came down early and worked hard on improving his defense, and actually got better. And he told his former Expos coach, Perry Hill, last night that he's continuing to practice those defensive drills that they worked on together this spring. Armas does a good job of throwing the ball inside to both the lefties and the right-handers. We saw his approach to Shannon Stewart back in the third inning and got a ground ball out off the bat of Shannon Stewart after coming inside with a couple of good fastballs.
2-2 on Brad Fulmer. Delgado out at second. And a ground ball to the right side. Pedro makes the play, 2 down. Delgado comes down to third. So Fulmer's 0 for 2 against the Expos, and Tony Batista will come up. 2 outs and a runner at third. Blue Jays down to 5-1. Looks like there might be a bigger crowd on hand here today than there was last night when the series began, and they had just over 26,000.
Beautiful day.
Yeah.
Kind of wide open, bright sunny day. Great day for baseball. Bigger crowd, right?
Yeah, I would think. Looks like maybe over 30. And as we heard in the first inning, a lot of them rooting for the Expos. Swing and a miss by Batista, 1-1. They'll have a chance to do so again tomorrow. Dustin Hermanson and David Wells.
David Wells tees it up, goes for his 11th win. Dustin Hermanson back into the rotation after working as the closer for a while.
1-2. Armas fooling Batista.
A little bit of a slider there. Threw it a little bit slower than the sliders he has thrown earlier in this game, and you can see it's a very simple approach by Armas. Good movement on his fastball, a tight breaking slider, and occasional changeup.
Delgado at third, 2 down, and the 1-2 to Batista. Strike 3. Batista swings through a high fastball, and the inning is over. Blue Jays. Montreal up 4, heading to the 5th inning here at Scottsdale this afternoon. After the game, a cash donation will be made to the Canadian Special Olympics on behalf of the Expos Player of the Game and a Nikon. If you like the pro with the new and innovative F80 from Nikon. Learn more at nikon.ca. Five to 1 to Montreal leading. Beautiful day, nice crowd here at Skydome. Expos coming up against Kelvim Escobar, Vidro, White, and then Guerrero. And this trio responsible for all 5 Montreal runs. They've driven in all 5 between them. Vidro with an RBI double in the first and an RBI single in the second is all the way up to 369. And you think back just 3 months ago, even though he'd come off a good 1999 season, the Expos had Mickey Morandini in camp to challenge Vidro for the second base job. And a credit to him, he didn't sulk about it. He decided he was going to work harder and accept it as a challenge, get better because of it, and he beat out Morandini, who has since returned to the Phillies. And now, I mean, this guy's an all-star the way he's playing.
Yeah, and the impressive part of his spring was the fact that he beat out Morandini on defense. He outplayed him in the field. And there was no question that he was a much better offensive player than Mickey Morandini, but he stayed focused and didn't get into a bad frame of mind. Played very well.
Defense was such a big topic for the Montreal Expos in spring training because they were so bad defensively last year. They're better this year, although still not great. But Felipe Alou thinks that they made way too many errors, and they made more mental errors on defense than physical errors that just allowed way too many runs and made their pitching look much worse than it actually was.
Now, when you have a young team, you really have to emphasize the fundamentals and impress upon them that if you eliminate mistakes and keep from giving the opponents extra outs, you've got a better chance to win. Tough play for Batista.
And just in time to get a Vidro.
Tony Batista doesn't have that third base power arm, but he unloads so quickly. Vidra out of the box in a hurry, and watch how quickly Batista plants and fires all in one motion. Didn't take an extra step, didn't take any time, and that saved him as Delgado sets up early on the bag and takes the throw just ahead of Jose Vidra.
Now Rondell White, who's 1 for 2. RBI single in the first, struck out in the second. I think this guy is still headed elsewhere. I guess it depends on how well Montreal plays through the summer.
Yeah, I think the Expos still believe that they could be the wild card team. I don't expect them to move Rondell White anytime soon. They're 6 games back to start a play.
Into right field and right at Mondesi. Well, in both leagues, there appears to be a lot of competition for playoff spots, and more specifically the wild card spot. The Expos would obviously look at the Mets right now in their own division, the East. Look at Cincinnati and St. Louis, who are nip and tuck at the top of the Central. And then out west, Arizona's got the lead. Surprising, Colorado is in second, and then the Dodgers are moving up as well. So you've got 7 or 8 teams right now playing some pretty good baseball.
Well, there are actually 15 teams within 7 games of their division's lead, and it's an awful lot of parity. A lot of teams have good enough clubs to be within striking distance of a postseason berth, and that's the real beauty of the wild card to me. And I think that any talk of eliminating a wild card would be a big mistake.
2 outs, nobody on, and Escobar working to Vladimir Guerrero, who homered back in the first inning. Was also grounded out.
Have you noticed who's in first place in the American League West?
Oakland.
And every team in that division is over 500.
Yeah. In the American League, 10 of the 14 teams are over 500. But only one of them, the White Sox, over 600. There's a lot of parity in the American League right now as well.
I don't think the White Sox are going away. They have a good club. They've got good pitching depth. They won that opener against the Cubs in 14 innings. In fact, they won again today, 4-3. Big crowds at Comiskey. 44,000 last night.
Half Southsiders and half from the Northsiders.
Yeah, that's one of the places where the interleague really works.
3-1, the count on Guerrero. 2 outs, nobody on in the Expo 5th. You see how hard he swings, and you realize how little he walks. Only 9 unintentional walks all season. And it's amazing he makes as much contact as he does, and he hits the ball as hard as he does. He didn't strike out for about 2 weeks at the beginning of the season, even though he was hitting over 400. He just didn't, I mean, he hit everything he saw in the first couple of weeks, and he's still at 375 right now, second in the league. Caught looking. Well, you don't say that very often, and Guerrero doesn't like the call, and he gives Mike Riley a piece of his mind. And Felipe Alou doesn't want to lose his best player here, and Riley's going to walk away before some Expo personnel get Vladimir Guerrero out of there. A hot and hazy day down by the lake with the Expos leading the Blue Jays 5-1 in the middle game of this 3-game series. Blue Jays won 13-3 last night. They'll wrap it up tomorrow afternoon to meet up in Montreal again next month. And the story here today, or at least one of the stories, has been the performance of Montreal pitcher Tony Armas. He has given up just a run on 3 hits through 4 innings. Coming off his first major league win, his last time out against Baltimore, in which he went 8 innings and gave up just 2 hits. And you look at the potential as Alberto Castillo steps in. Armas, Havano, Vasquez, Hermanson, of course, once he gets settled back into the rotation.
Mike Thurman's on a disabled list right now, and he's another legitimate starter.
Boy, they had pitching injuries. Hideki Arabu's on the shelf after knee surgery. Graham Lloyd might not pitch this season, shoulder problems. Wide of first, it's Stevens with the flip to the bag, 1 down. And last night's starter, T.J. Tucker, injured his elbow, and he was being looked at by Blue Jay medical personnel. personnel today, and there's some concern that Tucker may have a fairly serious elbow problem. Mike Johnson's apparently going to step back into the rotation in the meantime in Tucker's spot. Ugueth Urbina, of course, has been on the DL, which has weakened the bullpen and which caused Hermanson to go into the bullpen in the first place. So the Expos have had more than their fair share of injuries amongst the pitchers. And now word that Tucker has been DL'd today after a medical examination of that elbow. So yet another Montreal pitcher going on the DL. Cruz pops it up. Cabrera for the second out. That's why the performances of guys like Armas and Pavano and Steve Klein, who has stepped in and actually saved 5 games in 5 consecutive days, it's been paramount for the Expos to get those kinds of performances with so many regulars out.
Now, it's difficult to expect an awful lot from young pitchers, but they've got so many good arms with young guys who've got some composure that they've been able to get through it, at least for the time being.
2 outs, nobody on for Alex Gonzalez. Just one of the things you don't know about Montreal is if it gets to late July and they are still in the playoff race with a new owner in Jeffrey Loria, majority owner anyway, who stepped up the payroll from about 17 to 30 million this year. Will the Expos have $1 million or $2 million to actually go out and get somebody at the end of July if they need somebody?
Well, that would be a big surprise if they could add anybody because of the people they would have to compete with. Of course, the Blue Jays would be one of those teams looking to add some depth.
Gonzalez hits the 0-2 pitch high in the air to left center field. And back in front of the track is Rondell White to haul it in. And in the inning, Armas gets the Blue Jays 1-2-3 again. Another series coming up with the Detroit Tigers at Comerica Park, and we'll have the Tuesday and Wednesday games of that series for you, the second and third games of that 3-game set. And right now, it looks like Clayton Andrews, at least it's his spot in the rotation for the Blue Jays, and Willie Blair figures to start for Detroit. It looks like the Blue Jays will get Jeff Weaver on Wednesday night. He turned in another good one last night. He has looked pretty sharp recently. Lee Stevens leads off the 6th inning with a swing and a miss. From Detroit, Blue Jays have an off day on the Thursday. Then they go back to Fenway. And then they'll come home and play Detroit and Boston. Same 2 teams, and that'll do it for the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. Coming into play today, the Blue Jays were 3 back of the Yankees for first into the East and 2.5 back of Boston for second. The Yankees crushed the Mets this afternoon, 13-5. And the Red Sox will play later on tonight. Expos come in as 6 back of Atlanta in the National League East. Atlanta with the best record in baseball. Stevens pulls a base hit through the right side.
Just the second hit allowed since the second inning. Lee Stevens has been on base twice. He walked in the 3rd, but was stranded. Escobar, after a very shaky first inning, has pitched very effectively.
Now the catcher, Brian Snyder, who's 0 for 2 with a strikeout and a flyout. Not really your primary base stealing threat over at first. Stevens doesn't have any this season.
That's just a situation where Escobar just wasn't sure what he wanted to do, so instead of throwing the pitch to the plate, he went to first base and got a new sign.
Hit hard, but a foul down the right side. Well, Escobar seems to have gotten himself straightened out after the first couple of innings when Montreal scored all 5 of their runs. And and has now worked at least 5 innings in 12 of his 13 starts this year. But still not giving the Blue Jays the kind of consistency they hoped for, and Jim Fregosi talked about it before the game. Just another consequence of having so many young pitchers on a staff. Carpenter at times has been up and down this year. Roy Halladay, of course, all the way down to the minors, and actually pitched for the Blue Jays in that AA exhibition game in Knoxville a couple of days ago. Pitched 5 good innings. And who knows, in 2 weeks, maybe Halladay's back in the rotation, and another 2 weeks after that, maybe Joey Hamilton's in the rotation. He's going to start a rehab assignment down in Dunedin. Rotation could have a very different feel than it does right now, and if Halladay and Hamilton were to be in that rotation, maybe it's the original starting 5 in division to buy the Blue Jays back in the winter. Stevens is going, and it's chopped foul. Goes to show you what we know.
Yeah, well, they're playing hit and run right there, and Stevens was on the move, and Brian Snyder got a tough pitch to handle, a fastball up and away. He got a piece of it to protect the base runner, but they were playing hit and run all the way. Watch the effort by the batter. That ball was about 2 feet off the plate outside, and he fouls it off.
So 2-2 now, the count on Snyder. Runner at first, nobody out.
And you talked about the possibility of having Halladay and Hamilton back in the rotation, and it looks like this division is going to be decided by the team that gets a hot arm added to their rotation from somewhere, whether it's from within or from a trade, because there just doesn't seem to be the depth in the starting staffs of the top 3 teams in the American League East.
Base hit, pulled through the right side, and with Stevens on the move on the pitch, he'll come all the way around to third.
Not comfortable with a 4-run lead, starts the first baseman, Big Lee Stevens, plays hit and run with his catcher, and Brian Snyder delivers. There goes Stevens. Big hole on the right side, and Snyder pulls it through the hole. The ball gets to Mondesi, but he doesn't have a shot at Stevens going first to third.
Now Trace Coquelette, the third baseman. Strikeout and a fly out for him. 242 on the season. 10th round pick of the Expos back in 1993. Stepped in to replace the injured Mike Mordecai last night. Got into 17 games with the Expos last season, hitting .265. Third base has been one of the positions kind of in a state of limbo for the Expos the last couple of years. We've got a player by the name of Michael Barrett, who's down in the minors right now, who about a year ago at this time was considered to be maybe their next great player. He kept switching him back and forth between third base catcher. This year started him off at third, didn't hit very much at all. He's down in the minors. Got a bunch of catchers, and Widger and Webster and Snyder and O'Brien and Coquelette finding some time here and there at third base.
Well, Michael Barrett, he was the third baseman coming out of camp, and not only didn't he hit, but he didn't field, and now he's starting to hit a little better in AAA, but it might be a while before they make any move with him, as they want him to really regain his confidence defensively.
2-2, the count on a Coquelette. Right center field. Mondesi makes the catch. Stevens the tag. And he'll come in to score on the sacrifice fly, make it 6-1.
Coquelette, with a good at-bat, drives the ball deep enough into right field to chase home the 6th Expos run. I think Stevens, not the swiftest base runners, but it's deep enough, and they have to cut it off. But look at the approach. Ball ran back over the middle of the plate. Coquelette got enough of it to drive it to right.
6th RBI of the season. Runner at first, 1 out. The batter is Orlando Cabrera. Shortstop's 0 for 2. Darwin Kubian now throwing in the Blue Jays bullpen. Still 0-2 on to Cabrera. He's from Colombia. 25 years of age. And he fouls off another one. Another guy who, like Vladimir Guerrero, doesn't draw a lot of walks, and Cabrera on his way to being in the Alfredo Griffin territory right now. 181 at-bats. He's walked 3 times.
That's a free swinger.
Yeah.
Escobar just over 100 pitches for the game here in the 6th. And ball up and in again, and Escobar gets the attention of the Expos fans here.
1-2 on Cabrera. At first, Snyder, 1 out in the inning, and the Expos have added a run to take a 6-1 lead. Granted softly out to Bush. The flip to Gonzalez, and no chance for the double play. Fielder's choice for Cabrera.
Ball wasn't hit sharply enough to turn 2. They got the lead runner. Bush pivots and throws to Gonzalez, but he can't get to speedy Cabrera.
So with 2 outs and a runner at first, Peter Bergeron will get an at-bat, center fielder. Felipe Alou thinks that his development in the next couple of months is one of the keys to the Expos season.
Now, he's a very good defensive center fielder. He has a lot of speed, but I'm sure the concern is that he provides a little more offense with the bat.
He generally has led off this year 45 times. He's been up in the 1 spot, and coming out of spring, the center fielder's job came with the leadoff job attached to it. That's the way they were structuring their lineup. Bergeron winning the battle back in the spring, but hitting just .232 here in the regular season. One and one. A 4-run first for Montreal has held up. They got 4 runs before Escobar got an out today, capped by Vladimir Guerrero's booming 2-run homer to left center. Little outside, a 2-1 on Bergeron. Pretty well to left field. Back goes Stewart. It's over his head. Cabrera heading for third and getting the wave. Drove from Gonzalez to the plate. Not in time. 7-1 to Montreal.
Bergeron really gave that a ride. The ball sailed over Shannon Stewart's head. We talked about the ball going down that left field corner being blown around. Alex Gonzalez got the relay, but they didn't have a decent shot. He was out into shallow left field. Take a look at the ball carry. Pretty good pitch down and away to Bergeron. He slices it over the head of Shannon Stewart, who has to play it off the wall. This will give you a good idea of the replay. There's the throw to the shortstop, Gonzalez, and here comes Cabrera sliding in with the 7th Expos run. That double is going to mean the end of the day for Kelvin Escobar.
A rough first and second inning, breezed through the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and then hit hard again here in the 6th inning. A 7-1 Expo lead, top of the 6th, and a Kubian in from the pen.
Darwin Kubian comes on, makes his 5th appearance of the season. His last appearance, he picked up his first Major League win. Working down in Atlanta, came in a 4th pitch, 2 1/3 of 4-hit relief. He has not pitched as much as he would like, but he's got an opportunity to come in here and get some work in and try to keep the Expos at bay.
Expos already with a 6-run lead. Bergeron added second. The batter, Wilton Guerrero, who's 1 for 2 with a walk. Seven runs, 8 hits for Montreal. 1 run, just 3 hits for the Blue Jays today as Guerrero fouls it back. Kubian, last pitch in the Atlanta series, picked up a win his last time out. Here he comes on to mop up for Escobar, who has already allowed 7 runs, could go to 8 if Guerrero can cash in a Bergeron. It has been a roller coaster of a season for Kelvim Escobar, to say the least.
Well, we talked about his last start Sunday against the Marlins. Complete game. Struck out 10, walked 1 batter. And then he was touched up for 4 runs here in the 1st.
Three and 1 the count. And at the knees for strike 2 call.
If you've not seen Kubian before, he's got a real good fastball. He'll throw it 94 miles an hour with pretty good movement, and then his next best pitch would be his changeup. Working on improving his breaking pitch.
Guerrero pops it into shallow right center. Routine play from Mondesi to end the inning. So the Expos get 2 more. Rough day for Escobar. 7-1 Montreal. Expos seem intent on evening up this series with the Blue Jays, out to a 7-1 lead heading to the bottom of the 6th. Scored 4 runs before Kelvin Escobar recorded an out today. 1 more in the 2nd, and 2 more in the 6th to knock him out. All in support of Tony Armas, who has been very strong again here today. Here's the damage done on Escobar. Walks not the problem today. Usually when he struggles, it's primarily because of the walks that get him in trouble, but he only walked 2.
Well, that 1 walk, the one that started the game, really led to his undoing, because it led to a 4-run 1st inning, and that got his pitch count up. 109 pitches over 5 2/3.
Top of the order to face Armas in the 6th inning. Stewart, Bush, and Mondesi. Stewart is 0 for 2 today after coming up with 3 doubles and a homer in last night's game. Still hitting .382.
You can see the Expos are still pretty intent on pitching Stewart inside. Armas did it last time, threw 2 tight fastballs to Shannon and then got him to hit a ground ball to second base on a slider. Coming in again.
And get another ground ball. This one down to 3rd, and Stewart's 0 for 3.
After a 4-hit performance last night, they went back to the scouting report, came up with a different approach, and this time they have held Shannon Stewart 0 for 3.
1 down here in the Blue Jays 6th, and Homer Bush will be the batter. Reached on an infield hit and scored the only Blue Jay run of the day back in the 4th inning. This is some good aggressive base running, tagging up and moving from 1st to 2nd on the fly ball into the right field corner.
Homer just needs some good results. He needs to get a boost in his confidence, and You know, as he builds upon a couple hits last night, getting on base with an infield hit, moving up on that play, as you mentioned, Dan, and that's the way we saw him play last year for the majority of the season. And so much of his game relies on confidence, and he got off to a slow start and has not really been able to get things going.
Well, if you hit 320 for a full season, as he did last year, if anybody hits 320, that can't be a complete fluke. Not to say he'll duplicate 320, but he's better than 210.
No, no question about it. And I think that's what really started to wear on his mind. Chris Woodward and Craig Grayback did a remarkable job filling in while Bush was on the disabled list and getting starts at various times when Homer was struggling offensively. Woodward showing some power, and Grayback continued to show how versatile and how reliable he is.
Back to the mound, and Armas will jog it halfway, throw it the rest of the way, 2 down. Back to Dave Hodge at Baseball Tonight.
Interesting story developing in the All-Florida series. The Marlins pitcher Reed Cornelius, who was an Expo briefly 5 years ago, has thrown 6 no-hit innings. Easy outs like this, and the Marlins have 5 runs for him, 5-0 through 6.
Marlins also were involved in a 3-way deal yesterday, and I guess the biggest part of that trade is the news that Dave Martinez was traded again. He started off with Tampa Bay, and then it went up to the Cubs, and the Cubs, Marlins, and Rangers were involved in a 3-way deal yesterday, and Texas picked up Dave Martinez to help him in the outfield, also gave Kaplers back off the DL.
Well, that's a much better fit for Martinez, as he can help a good team like Texas. He can't do an awful lot for the Chicago Cubs because he's not going to play much. He's not going to play every day. When he initially went there, Mark Grace was down with a bad leg, and he was playing some first base, but now Grace is back, and of course they've got Rodriguez and Sosa and Buford, who's having a good year. So there's not many opportunities to play. But in Texas, in a pennant race, a good veteran player like Dave Martinez becomes very valuable.
Cubs might start cleaning house before long, and even Sammy Sosa might get down. He and Don Baylor have been engaged in a war of words over the last week or so, and they say they've made up to a certain extent. But boy, they don't seem all that happy with one another once you do a little bit of digging. They have each gone out of their way at times to say some pretty nasty things about the other. You wonder if Sammy Sosa is going to be traded to a contender by July 31st. 3-1 pitch into left center field. And coming together are Bergeron and White. Bergeron, I think, has got the baseball, and everybody's okay. As Mondesi is retired, and the Blue Jays are gone in the 6th. But this one a little bit more of an adventure than it should have been for these two Montreal outfielders. Out in front, 7-1 over the Blue Jays, heading to the 7th inning here at Skydome. Darwin Akubian is on the mound for Toronto, replaced Kelvim Escobar last inning, and he's got the heart of the Expo lineup coming up here in Vidro, White, and Guerrero. Vidro is 2 for 3 with a couple of RBIs today.
Had his average up to 367 in the Expos. Tell you what, let this switch hitter hit in second, and his ability to drive in runs. 42 RBIs now at this point in the season.
Into left field to make it a 3 for 4 day for Vidro. The line drive machine.
Boy, he's got a short, quick approach to the baseball. And we talked about his head, how steady he keeps his head. Watch his head as he stays on this ball. Not a whole lot of movement. His head is still, his shoulders rotate, and he drives the ball into left field.
Now Rondell White got an RBI single today, 1 for 3 overall. White broke in with the Expos way back in 1993. Became a regular in 95. He had a good season, 295, stole 25 bases. 0-2 the count, and has hit 300 or better each of the last 2 years with pretty good power. 17 and then 22 home runs the last 2 years. And he's up over 300 again this year. Again, driving the ball in the gaps, driving in runs.
His big problem over the last couple of years is just whether or not he can stay healthy. Because if he is healthy, he's a very good number 3 hitter. With that changeup, Expos getting their first look at Darwin Kubion, and he picks up his first strikeout on the changeup to Rondell White. Watch how he gets his foot down, and he's way out in front of that baseball. Great arm action from Kubion. There's the timing really disrupted because he took so much off that pitch.
Now Guerrero, a 2-run home run in the first. He's also grounded out and struck out today. Take it away, ball 1. Little looper out to second, and the play is made by Homer Bush, 2 down.
Kubion's got that good moving fastball, and that ball tailed right in on the hands of Guerrero, and all he could do was just fight it off, hit a little humpback liner towards second base. Boy, that pitch eats him up. Even the quick hands of Guerrero can't get to that inside sinker.
Now Lee Stevens. It was his base hit to lead off the 6th inning. That was the beginning of the end for Kelvim Escobar. Moved to third on a base hit by Snyder. Came in on a sacrifice fly by Coquelet. A Bergeron a double. 2 batters later would add another run, and that would be the end of Escobar. Two and 1 the count on Stevens. Vidro stays put at first base.
You notice that Alberto Castillo is catching now, and it was a move back in the 4th inning when he came on defensively to take over for Darren Fletcher. Fletcher's had some more problems with that throwing shoulder. So he started this game, got a couple of at-bats, and no, actually he just got the 1 at-bat, and then he left.
You know, we've talked about Delgado and Wells and Koch, and among the most indispensable players for the Blue Jays. Darren Fletcher is a very important player for the Blue Jays. They missed him for a month last year. Mike Matheny did the bulk of the catching. Alberto Castillo would inherit the job this year, but they can't afford to be without Fletcher very long if that shoulder continues to act up. Kubion with a couple of strikeouts. 7th inning stretch. Expos by 6. Here this afternoon is the great pitching performance that the Expos have received from young right-hander Tony Armas, making just his 6th start and coming off his first major league win last time out against Baltimore. He's been just about as good today as he was against the Orioles, having allowed only 1 run on 3 hits through 6.
Last time out against Baltimore, he held the Orioles to just 2 hits over 8 innings. Very similar line as Dan mentioned, and only 76 pitches. He has been very impressive, and he's consistently in the strike zone. Not really a wide variety of pitches. Good moving fastball, pretty good slider, and occasional changeup. But they've done a good job of convincing him that if he throws it over with his stuff, he's got a chance to be effective.
He'll face the only Blue Jay who's really given him a lot of trouble here today. Walked Delgado in the 2nd, and then Delgado with an RBI double in the 4th to move into a tie for 2nd in the American League with Mike Sweeney of the Royals. Just 2 back of Edgar Martinez, who's having an incredible season. Seattle is out in San Francisco this afternoon, while Kansas City is home to Pittsburgh tonight. Delgado now hitting at .346 as he takes low, a ball and a strike. Ground a ball out to second, and Delgado's retired. 1 down here in the 7th. Got another update with Dave Hodge.
If you had to pick a Devil Ray to break up the Reed Cornelius no-hitter, I suppose it might have been Greg Vaughn, and here is a hard single to left field leading off the 7th inning. The no-hitter is gone. The shutout is still intact, and Florida leads by 5.
And here Montreal leads by 6. We talked earlier about how the American League was Having some good times at the expense of the National League early this afternoon. Looks like the National League's making a comeback.
But that is such a good pitch to Brad Fulmer on the first pitch. That good moving fastball inside, working its way back toward the inside corner. But Armas has been very good inside with both lefties and righties.
And another ground ball, and Armas to the bag himself. He has now retired at 10 in a row. Fulmer yet to get untracked against his former club. 0-for-3 today.
Of those 10 straight Blue Jays retired, 6 of them have been ground ball outs. So that sinking fastball really giving the Blue Jays fits.
Now Batista 0-for-2. Swing and a miss, 0-1. The last hit for the Blue Jays was Delgado's RBI double back in the 4th. Taken outside, ball 2. And another ground ball off the glove of Coquelin. It bounces to short, and safe at first is Batista.
Boy, Cabrera really reacted very quickly as that ball kicked off the glove of the third baseman, Coquelin, and went right to Cabrera, who tried to make a quick throw to first base, but he had pretty good position. He followed the play into the hole and watched the ball go off the third baseman's glove. Shortstop backing up the play. Cabrera jumps, gloves it, and throws, but not in time to first.
An error charged to Coquelin on this play. They'll get Castillo to the plate. Won't know at least until after the game, maybe tomorrow, how serious that shoulder problem is for Fletcher, aggravating it earlier today. A lot of times on a Sunday, Castillo gets in there, whether the other team throws a righty or a lefty, kind of a day game after a late afternoon game, and Jim Fregosi has gone to different lineups on Sundays here and there to give Fletcher a rest. Dropping it in there. Base hit for Castillo. Around to third comes Batista. Blue Jays on the corners with 2 down.
Well, they've got something going. 2 out there by the third baseman, then a bloop single by Alberto Castillo. Runners at the corners. Alberto now 1 for 2. Bobby Cuellar, the pitching coach, on the bullpen phone, going to get something going down there.
So 2 outs, 2 on. 7-1 Expos in the 7th, and the batter is Cruz, who's 1 for 2. Takes it low, ball 1. Looks like right-hander Anthony Telford is up in the Montreal pen. 2-0.
Well, we've talked about the bullpen situation in that they've lost Lucas Urbina, and they might have him back after the All-Star break. They've used Dustin Hermanson down there as a closer, and now Steve Klein, the left-hander, is finishing up ball games for them. Telford has been effective as a setup guy.
Sudden Armas falls behind. The inning, remember, should be over, but for the error on a Coquelin a couple of batters ago. 3-1.
Armas continues to work very quickly, and he has shown all the signs that you would love to see from a young pitcher, throwing a lot of strikes, working very quickly, and pitching with confidence.
But he walks Cruz to load the bases for Alex Gonzalez.
Just the second walk of the day issued, and that's going to bring a visit from his pitching coach, Bobby Cuellar. Remember, he should have been out of this inning. He had an easy ground ball down the third. Looked like it was going to be a 1-2-3 inning, and then the ball was booted by Coquelet. And then Alberto Castillo had a bloop single, and now the 2-out walk to Jose Cruz Jr.
They'll take as much time as they can to get Telford warmed up a little bit more, but Armas will stay to face Alex Gonzalez. Pitch count not a problem. As we mentioned earlier, Gonzalez has driven in at least a run in each of his last 5 games. He's not hitting for a great average, just .233 on the season, but he has had some very productive hits in the last week or so. The Blue Jays in desperate need of another one here. Bases loaded at 2 outs. You'll remember back in Atlanta on a Wednesday night of the final game of the Braves series, Gonzalez hit a 3-run double right over the head of Andrew Jones in center field. Up to 22 RBIs on the season. And back in the American League, back down to the number 9 spot after hitting 6th or 7th in most of the interleague games. Right into Vidro. That ball was scorched, and Vidro made a good play.
That ball was destined for the alley in right center, extra bases, and maybe a 3-run double, but Vidro timed his jump perfectly. This is a rocket, and Vidro spears it, and it looks like it hits in the heel of his glove, but he's able to hang on for an inning-ending catch.
By Speedy Auto Service, exhaust, brakes, suspension, and tires, and so much more. The Expos jumped out in front early. 4 runs after 4 batters, including a Vladimir Guerrero home run. Escobar was gone on the 6th. Carlos Delgado keeps going. RBI double. Jose Vidro with 3 hits and a couple of RBIs for Montreal. And Tony Armas, 7 very strong innings for the Expos. He's given up just a run on 4 hits. Darwin Akubian remains in the game for the Blue Jays, with Brian Snyder set to lead off the 8th. After Snyder, it'll be Coquelet and then Cabrera, the 6, 7, and 8 hitters. Hit and run, a base hit through the right side for Snyder his last time up. Taking a little bit low, ball 2, 2-1. Crowd of 30,239 here today. Bigger than last night, and one of the bigger crowds of the season for the Blue Jays. Is a lot of transplanted to Montrealers have come out here this weekend to root on the Expos.
You've given him a good show today. 7 runs on 9 hits. In a good pitching performance by Tony Armas.
Strikeout for Kubian, his 3rd in just an inning and 2/3. Another chance to come out and see Montreal and Toronto tomorrow afternoon as they finish up this 3-game interleague series. Tickets available on the phone or online at BlueJays.com, and a pretty good pitching matchup. Dustin Hermanson for Montreal, David Wells, 10-game winner for Toronto. Here's Trace Coquelet. You know, down the road, and maybe not all that far down the road, there exists the possibility that these two teams might be in the same league, might be in the same division if massive realignment takes place. Of course, the possibility also exists that the Montreal Expos will be in Washington next year.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing, because if you go ahead and say, okay, we're going to have geographical realignment, and then a team or 2 moves, it's going to be a mess.
So which do you fix first? Do you get Montreal, Minnesota, Florida sorted out, or? I mean, Bud Selig doesn't appear to have the votes he needs for any kind of
No, not a major realignment, that's for sure. I think that's why the meeting has been delayed
a couple of times. 4-pitch walk to Coquelette.
The Houston Astros are an interesting situation there, because there's been speculation that the Players Association wants them to move into the American League, and then they would have a rival in the Texas Rangers, but Houston wants nothing to do with that idea.
That's the players' plan, is to get Houston to move to the AL. The owner's plan is to have Arizona and Tampa Bay switch leagues and have 14 teams in one league and 16 in the other.
That's a bad plan.
Yeah, and no wild. Well, I mean, that's the way it is now, but the big difference is no wild card in one league and a yes wild card in the other, and that's where the players say, I was talking to John Frascatore, who's the Blue Jays player rep, and he says the two things the players really want to see happen is to have the same playoff structure in each league, and you can't blame them for that, and to cut down on coast-to-coast travel. Fly ball to left field off the bat of Cabrera. Shannon Stewart is there, 2 down. In the old days, when the Blue Jays would go play Seattle, Oakland, Anaheim, they would play all 3 on one trip. They'd go out to the coast twice. Now most Eastern teams go out to the West Coast 4 times. Interleague play and so forth has complicated the schedule. Everybody wants to see more games within your own division. The players just don't want to see a different playoff structure in the 2 leagues. And there are other problems. You look at the possibility of a 6-team American League Central, and then you've got a Minnesota and Kansas City saying, wait a minute, we're in the one division where there are 6 teams, plus we have to be with Cleveland?
Yeah, and it's just really not a fair situation for them. And there are going to be a lot of different ideas before they resolve this, because travel is the most pressing one, I think. And another aspect is the fact that the Blue Jays are going to be finished with the Boston Red Sox in another couple of weeks and then not face them the rest of the year.
I mean, obviously there are a million things to consider when putting together the schedule for the major leagues, but wouldn't you start in September and work backward? Line down the left field line. Bergeron's got another hit. It'll bounce a little bit away from Stewart, but still being held at third is Coquelette. Second and third, 2 down.
Couple of hits for Bergeron and a tough pitch down and away. His second double in as many at-bats, and this is another pitch that he just goes the other way with. His last double was more of a fly ball that went down into the corner. This was a line drive just over the glove of Batista. Shannon Stewart gets it back in very quickly to keep Coquelette from scoring.
2 in scoring position, 2 outs for Wilton Guerrero. He's 1 for 3. What I mean by couldn't you start in September and work back to say, okay, New York has to play Boston in the last week of the series, and Atlanta's got to play the Mets, and, or whatever the case is. But, you know, each building has other things to host. Most of them do anyway, other than just baseball. And television has a big say in what goes on. Ground ball to the right side, off the glove of Delgado into right. 2 runs will score, and the Expos are running away with it. It's 9-1.
That'll be scored, a base hit. Guerrero will get 2 RBIs on the play. Delgado with a big-time effort, but I think Homer Bush was going to be in position to make that play, but Delgado doesn't know that when he goes for it. He got a deflection off the ball. Look at Bush's position. He was in line to make a play had Delgado not touched that ball, and they might have been able to go to first base and get Guerrero.
And now ball 1 low to Vidro.
Look at this pitch that Guerrero puts in play. A changeup down and in, and he hooks it and ends up with a base hit and drives home 2.
Now Vidro spanks one to center field. On the run is Cruz. He'll get there and end the inning. But the Expos score a couple more. Wilton Guerrero drives them both in, and 9-1 to Montreal. A 9-1 lead over the Blue Jays heading to the bottom of the 8th inning. Stay with us after the game, and a cash donation will be made to the Canadian Special Olympics on behalf of the Blue Jays Player of the Game, and to the Insurance Brokers Association of Canada. For your best deal, look for the sign of your independent insurance broker. Now, it looks like Tony Armas is on his way to his second win in as many starts. What a performance by the 23-year-old Venezuelan here today, allowing just a run on a Delgado double back in the fourth inning. Congratulations all the way around between innings as Armas makes his way out of the game and right-hander Anthony Telford makes his way in.
A good job by Armas to pitch his team into the eighth inning. Now Anthony Telford comes out of the bullpen to take over for him. Telford, his 24th appearance of the season. He's 4-3, 4.88 ERA. He is fresh off the disabled list himself. He was activated on June 2nd after missing 13 games over the 15 days.
Shannon Stewart will lead off the bottom of the eighth. Stewart, after a huge night last night, held hitless so far today and kept on the infield. He'll be followed by Bush and Amondesi. It really is remarkable what the Expos have been able to accomplish this year, given all the injuries they have had to their pitching staff. You look at what the Cleveland Indians have gone through, and they've had a similar number of injuries as the Expos have, and how it's affected them. There was one point last week after a Montreal win over the Yankees, when at the end of play that day, the Expos had a better record than the Yankees, the ultimate big money team in a baseball. 2-1 the count on Stewart. And even right now, Montreal at 31-26, seemingly on their way to 32-26. One of the better records in the National League. Nice play at short by Cabrera. And he'll get up and throw him out with a big stretch by Stevens.
Now that's as good as it gets at shortstop. Cabrera spears the ball with his glove blade, stretched out totally, and then gets to his feet quickly in time to fire to Stevens for the out. We told you that this infield defense has really improved, and look how quickly Cabrera gets to his feet, gets a lot on the throw, and he gets Shannon Stewart. Big time stretch by Lee Stevens helps him out. Both Cabrera and Vidra up the middle have really improved on defense.
Here's Homer Bush, 1 for 3. Down a low ball 1. The day after getting 13 runs, their largest output of the season, Blue Jays have been held to 1 run here today. Another ground ball. Vidro out at second. 2 down.
That's been the theme of the Expos defensively today. Ground balls and good plays by the infielders. The starter Tony Armas did it. Now Anthony Telford comes in, gets 2 ground balls on the first 2 hitters he faces.
And you're right, of the 23 outs recorded today by Montreal pitching, 19 of them have been either strikeouts or ground outs, something on the infield. Only 4 fly balls today. 2 of them off the bat of this guy, Raul Mondesi, but he's 0 for 3 overall, down to 261. Lance Painter now throwing in the Blue Jays pen. Got a couple of guys up from Montreal. 2-1 the count on Amondesi. After this series here, the Expos will continue on the road to get it back into National League play. They'll head to Milwaukee and then to Wrigley. Base hit into center field for Mondesi. Delgado to the plate with a runner on here in the 8th inning.
Blue Jays have been playing catch-up all afternoon. Fell in the hole 4-0 in the first. 5-0 after the second, and just haven't been able to get anything going. Delgado has driven home the only run back in the 4th inning.
Delgado facing Anthony Telford in his 4th full season with the Expos. Been a workhorse for them out of the bullpen the last 3 years, averaging better than 70 appearances and 90 innings per season. For that, was with the Orioles off and on back in the early 90s. Two and one the count. Delgado lifts a fly ball foul into the seats down the line. 2-2. .345, 23 homers, 61 RBIs.
Triple Crown kind of numbers. And you know, we talked about how Delgado was going to have to be patient this year just because of his reputation and the way that the American League respects his ability to drive in runs. It's remarkable he's been able to hit for that high an average. There were times early in the season where he became very frustrated by not getting many pitches to hit. That's no longer the case.
No swing on the appeal, so Delgado walks for the 2nd time today. And the 43rd time already this season as Mondesi moves to 2nd. And the batter will be Brad Fulmer. 0 for 3 today. A couple of ground outs, and his first time up. Lined one down to Lee Stevens at first. Hit the ball hard. Delgado was at first at the time and was doubled off. He's fallen under 300. Been a long time. Fulmer was up in the mid-300s for a while and started to struggle a little bit, then had to sit out most of last week with Blue Jays playing down in National League parks. Basically like a forced vacation for him and Marty Cordova.
Yeah, and I think Fulmer lost some playing time when Cordova got hot there for a while, and then they sat him down, but he was playing against lefties and righties early on because he was so hot.
Oh, and 2.
And Telford staying right in on the 5th of Brad Fulmer.
Seven innings for Tony Armas. Looking for his 2nd big league win now. Telford on in the 8th. 9-1 to Montreal. Not hitting the Blue Jays 11-5. Telford away out in front 0-2 on to Fulmer. Got him with a good breaking ball to end the inning. What a difference 24 hours makes here at Skydome. All Montreal here today. The edition of Sports Desk coming up for you at the top of the hour, including a preview of Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. All around the Major Leagues, Euro 2000 and more. Not far away here on TSN. 9th inning. As we bring you back inside Skydome, where the Montreal Expos have certainly enjoyed themselves here today with a comfortable 9-1 lead. And Lance Painter is going to make just his 2nd appearance since coming off the DL.
He came off the DL back on the 6th of June, Tuesday at Atlanta. You can see that his numbers reflect the fact that he had a couple of starts in there. His innings up to 28 now. And he had elbow problems. That's what forced him onto the disabled list as a result of a lot of pitches in his 2 starts.
No easy part of the Montreal lineup coming up in White, Guerrero, and Stevens in the 9th. White with an RBI single in the 1st. 1 for 4 overall. Painter feels that since he's returned, and he's only had 1 rehab appearance, 1 major league appearance, and now this one, but working on the side, working in games, that his fastball has come back a little bit quicker than some of the other stuff has, coming off the elbow problem. That the breaking ball and the changeup might take him a little bit longer to get the comfortable feel with again, and especially against righties. That changeup especially is a very important pitch for him. That's a breaking ball that's hammered down into the left field corner. And Ron Rondell White chugging into second base with his 21st double of the season, something that Jose Vidro did earlier in the game.
And you talked about this club's ability to hit doubles, and again, a breaking pitch, high leg kick, down and in, clears the front side and hooks it down into the corner. The ball has really been shooting out to left field. The only home run we have seen here today was a 2-run monster home run by Vladimir Guerrero back in the first. That set the tone for a 4-run first inning.
Well, the regular's still in there for both teams, really, as Guerrero comes up. 2-run homer back in the first.
He doesn't let much go by, does he? Kind of hits. Oh. You don't see that very often.
2 baseballs thrown back at the same time.
And they hit. Lance Painter was looking at the umpire. The catcher was picking up the ball and throwing it back to him. It was weird. Look at this. Watch Castillo bend over and pick up the ball. Mike Briley says, "Here, Lance, have this one." And then 2 balls come out to the mound. Painter just deflects the one, and they didn't hit. It was just like, "Here, have a ball."
Wow.
Fortunately, nobody got hurt.
Now, how can a guy, he might have hurt himself there, but how can a guy who swings at everything, like Vladimir Guerrero does, not strike out very often and hit about 380?
Well, he's got such remarkable hand-eye coordination that even when he strides away from the plate, he has the ability to keep his hands back and concentrate on where the ball is and go after it with the head of the bat. And the comparisons have been drawn between Guerrero and the late Roberto Clemente, the great Pirates outfielder. Clemente used to do the same thing. He would step in the bucket and hit a line drive on a ball down and away.
And he had 3,000 hits.
And, you know, it didn't make any difference where the ball was. And they have said this year about Guerrero, he has hit home runs on pitches up around his head and hit extra base hits on balls that have just about bounced. Head to toe, that's his hitting zone.
And line to line. Uses the whole field. Home run today to left center. His 19th of the season.
He talks about when he was a kid, they used to flip bottle caps at one another and they'd hit them with a broomstick, and that'll give you a pretty good idea that you can have good hand-eye coordination. You probably did that growing up.
Oh, yeah, lots. That's why I'm as coordinated as I am today. And again, reaches for it, puts it in play, and a strong throw by Gonzalez, because not only can Guerrero hit, but he can run, and he's never lazy down the line.
I think Alex, since coming back from his shoulder injury, has recognized when to throw it hard, when to unload it in a hurry, and he doesn't have to throw everything all out. And this time he unloads in a hurry, still gets enough on it to get Guerrero. You don't see him throwing 100% every time he catches the ball any longer. I think he's more conservative with that throw from the shortstop position.
First out of the inning, and here's Lee Stevens. Stevens has some funny stories to tell about Guerrero. As the guy who always hits behind him. He says oftentimes he'll get up to the plate, and Guerrero's just hit a double or a homer on a pitch a foot and a half out of the strike zone, and he'll get up there, and the catcher will say, "Did you see where that pitch was?" And Stevens says, I mean, he's done this routine enough by now, so he, there's nothing much for him to say. But Guerrero's hit him, as you said, pitches that bounce, pitches up around his eyes. And even though Stevens is a pretty good hitter, Guerrero's been walked intentionally more than any player in baseball this year. You can see, especially with a left-hander pitching, why that would be an automatic with a base open.
But it's happened a lot with right-handers when they have a chance to pitch around Guerrero.
Fair ball down the line. This will get another run home. White will score. It's another double, this one for Stevens, and it's 10-1 Montreal.
That ball jams Stevens, and it hits the dirt and kind of gives Tony Batista a changeup. Looked like he was going to have a beat on it, but the ball stayed down, and he wasn't able to make a backhanded grab on the play. Stevens picks up the RBI and a double. He's got 12 doubles now.
5 doubles for the Expos today. There's Brian Snyder, the catcher, to take strike one and call it at the knees. Expos with some payback here for the Blue Jays after last night's game. Fouled off. Two from Painter, and he got him. 2 down.
Good pitch, bottom of the strike zone with a sinking fastball, and Snyder goes down swing. Snyder struck out 3 times today. First strikeout for Painter.
Chance for Painter to see how the elbow responds in his second appearance since coming off the DL. He'll face the third baseman, Trace Coquelette. Painter had been a very valuable part of the bullpen, had been pitching well from the left side. When he went into the rotation briefly, made 2 starts, and it was in that second start when he felt some pain in the elbow, thought it might go away, but woke up the next day, it was still there, and wound up on the DL. Center field, a base hit. Here comes Stevens. RBI single for Coquelette. Makes it 11-1.
A little payback, as Dan mentioned. Last night the Expos were touched up for 13 runs. Tonight their offense takes over and puts up an 11 spot. Lee Stevens getting congratulations for his double.
14th hit of the day for the Expos, and here comes the only Montreal player without a hit, Orlando Cabrera. And it will remain that way as he rolls one out to second to end the inning. But Montreal tacks on 2 more, an 11-1 lead for the Expos heading to the bottom of the 9th here at Skydome. Presented by authority of the Toronto Blue Jays Baseball Club, and it may not be reproduced or retransmitted without the consent of the Toronto Blue Jays. Well, the Blue Jays beat the Expos by 10 last night. Expos leading the Blue Jays by 10 here today. Bottom of the 9th inning. Tony Armas with a great performance as the starter for Montreal. Expos have scored in 5 different innings. Vladimir Guerrero with a home run. Jose Vidro with 3 hits and a couple of RBIs. Lone Blue Jay RBI belonging to Carlos Delgado on a double. And out of the Montreal bullpen, it comes their closer, Steve Klein, with Ugueth Urbina on the DL and Dustin Hermanson back in the rotation. Look at the job this guy's done.
He has really been a find for them, given the injuries that they've had in their bullpen, and Klein pitched very effectively. Picked up his 6th save on Monday against the Yankees.
First pitch, fly ball, Tony Batista, home run. Season for Batista makes it 11-2.
Well, Klein trying to come in and wrap it up in an on-save situation, throws a get-ahead fastball to Tony Batista, and Tony is all over it. Watch the extension, takes the hand off, full extension, and drives it over the bullpen in left.
Now Alberto Castillo slaps one foul right side. Castillo with a base hit his last time up, since coming on to replace Darren Fletcher, who left with an aggravation of his shoulder strain, as it was put to us, and no word yet on how long, if at all, he's going to be out. Klein seems a little bit surprised by all of his success as a closer, as a guy who throws really in the mid-80s. Little looper into right field, and Guerrero's there, 1 down. He sure doesn't have that blow him away kind of demeanor or blow him away kind of stuff.
The thing about Klein is he was picked up by the Expos from the Cleveland Indians when they traded Jeff Juden over there. Klein is basically the kind of guy you would like to use as a setup man for Urbina or Hermanson if they're down in the bullpen. But right now, he's picked up the slack and pitched very effectively. And it's all a mindset. You know, you go out there and just make good pitches, and you pitch late in the game, you get saves.
Cruz grounds out, 2 down in the 9th. Armas will go to 2 and 3. Escobar will drop to 5 and 7. And it'll be up to Dustin Hermanson and David Wells to settle the issue tomorrow afternoon at 1:05. Then the Blue Jays hit the road. 3 in Detroit, off day, 3 in Boston. Then come back home to face those same 2 teams. Upstairs to Alex Gonzalez.
Now you look ahead to tomorrow's game. David Wells going to the mound against Dustin Hermanson. And 2 best pitchers on the staffs, respectively. Hermanson has not pitched well since being reinserted into the rotation. He went down the bullpen to help them out, but he was throwing well prior to going down the pitch as the closer.
And if you look further ahead to the 2 Boston series, David Wells should pitch next Saturday in Fenway, and then if Jim Fregosi skips the number 5 guy the following Monday, he should face the Red Sox back here as well. So he'll pitch in at least one and maybe both of those Red Sox series. Three and 1, the count on Gonzalez. And he's aboard.
And Lou didn't have the kind of guys down in the pen to come in here and just give him quick outs other than Telford and Klein, so that's why these 2 guys were pitching in this game.
Shannon Stewart with another chance to pick up a base hit. Line misses upstairs, 1-0. Montreal spread it around here today. Guerrero's 2-run homer. Coquelette had a couple of RBIs. Vidro had a couple of RBIs. Wilton Guerrero had a couple of RBIs. Six extra base hits among the 14 of Montreal hits. Two and 1 on Stewart. And an Expo win. Coupled with a Met loss earlier today to the Yankees, will get Montreal back within a half game of New York for second place in the National League East. Pretty well into right center field. Bergeron makes the grab to end the ball game. Tony Armas picks up his second big league win and his second win in as many starts as the Expos have drubbed the Blue Jays 11-2 here this afternoon and even up the series. They had to win apiece. Guerrero with another home run, his 19th, and Montreal beats Toronto 11-2. The Blue Jays player of the game on behalf of the Insurance Brokers Association of Canada is first baseman Carlos Delgado. Doubled in a run and reached base 3 times today. The Expos player of the game on behalf of Nikon starting pitcher Tony Armas. 7 innings, only 1 run allowed as he picks up his second major league win. Montreal 11 and Toronto 2. They'll settle it tomorrow afternoon with David Wells and Dustin Hermanson on the mound.
Simple, but when the Blue Jays are scoring in double digits as they did last night, it looks as though they make the playoffs. When the other team is doing that to them, it looks like they won't. Yeah, and it all starts on the mound. The Blue Jays came into this game with an ERA about 5.5, and that went up today. You know, this is a team that's better than one game over 500, and you look at this team, it all starts on the pitcher's mound. They've got to get a little bit more consistent with their starting pitching. Yeah, Kelvim Escobar didn't have it today, and Tony Armas Jr. did, to say the least, and had all sorts of support. So the series will wrap up tomorrow. David Wells will be on the mound for the Blue Jays, and we'll see the Blue Jays next on Tuesday. We'll do Tuesday 1. All of that with James Duffy, so stay tuned to TSN. The Expos had their fans at Skydome, too, and they had all the cheering to do after suffering the 13-3 loss last night. Great play by Orlando Cabrera and Lee Stevens. Tony Armas has only 2 Major League victories, but one was a shutout of Baltimore, and another was this game interleague against the Blue Jays. 2 very satisfying wins. Thanks for watching. The Expos beat the Blue Jays on TSN.